So Peter Park is joining us in the studio today. How the moto stuff came about first.
Worked out with Steve one day and at the gym in his house in LA and said, I have this guy, Chad Reed, that he really needs a trainer. He had some sickness and he's coming back. I met Chad probably 2 weeks later and that's where it all started. I didn't even know that world existed. It was kind of like, whoa, this is a whole nother genre of people I never even knew existed. And it was a whole nother world. I didn't know their heart rates were that high riding and how physical it was. And it was a mind opener. And then I got hooked from then on. First time he trained with Harry Styles. I was training Harry at the time when I was in LA, and Harry like ran circles around him, and I was like, Adam was just like, it was someone that I had to get more athletic. Anything off the bike, it was like, Chase is the new breed. He's strong as an ox, and when he was doing great in the outdoors against Tom, I got all these DMs like, oh, you got him on Lance's program. He's he's taking steroids. He's taking, like last thing Chase needs is steroids.
It is important to me that supplements I take are of the highest quality, and that's why for years now I've been drinking AG1. Unlike many supplement brands, AG1 conducts relentless testing to set the standard for purity and potency. Quality for AG1 isn't just a buzzword, it's a commitment backed by expert-led scientific research, high-quality ingredients, industry-leading manufacturing, and rigorous testing. I know I can trust what's in every scoop of AG1 because it's tested for 950 contaminants and banned substances, while the industry standard typically only tests for 10. I love that every scoop of AG1 includes probiotics, prebiotics, and digestive enzymes for gut support, rhodiola, and B vitamins for energy support. So if you want to replace your multivitamin and more, start with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs at drinkag1.com/gypsytales. Check it out.
I met a gypsy.
These are like the fun ones where I can just sit
Oh yeah,
listen to
that
it.
sounds.
Listen to a cool mother.
Yeah.
Got a cool story. So is it Parks or Park?
Park.
Park,
No
just
S.
Park.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone always says Peter Parks, right?
Yeah. Or Parker, Spider-Man, Peter Parker.
Oh, yeah, true. So Peter Park is joining us in the studio today, and this is cool because Eric Goodman spoke about you a bunch in the podcast, and then I said to Eric, I was like, I feel like Peter would be a really good podcast, so he connected us, and then we've made this one happen. But you're a guy that's very behind the scenes in the moto world, but have a crazy list of experience and different people that you've worked with, but then an insane life on top of that. So I just got a coffee. I want to sit back, and I want to hear all about it.
Yeah, let's go.
So maybe how the moto stuff came about first. So just to paint a picture. So you're a physical trainer, but I guess
I was working in LA. This was like 2009, maybe 8, and I had a client, Casey Wasserman, who owns Wasserman Media. There's a lot of moto guys that are, I think Jet and them are still with Lucas. Part of Wasserman.
Yeah. Come a bit close, actually.
Steve Astafan worked out with Steve one day, and at the gym in his house in LA, and said, I have this guy, Chad Reed, that I had no idea about moto back then. He really needs a trainer. He had some sickness and he's coming back. So I met Chad probably 2 weeks later, and that's where it all started. And Chad and I, we had a great run. We got along really well, and he moved up to Santa Barbara for the off seasons for like maybe 3 or 4 seasons in a row.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what was my, I was like, I didn't even know that world existed. It was kind of like, whoa, this is a whole nother, genre of people I never even knew existed. And it was a whole nother world. And it was fun, to watch, like the normal person, I didn't know their heart rates were that high riding and how physical it was and how aerobically and how strong you had to be. So it was a mind opener. And then I got hooked from then on.
Did you do any riding yourself?
No, I rode BMX bikes when I was a kid, and I remember Roger DeCoster. I remember his name when I was a kid riding BMX. Doing jumps and jumping over people, and we had a DeCoster, a jump called that.
Yeah.
But no, not So I had to learn the whole just the whole sport. Chad was kind of gave me, he was a good teacher. He showed me exactly what goes on, heart rates, and I just knew from working with high end endurance, and I was a endurance athlete myself, a professional for a long time, and so I knew energy systems, I knew training. I was always a student of all that stuff, from lifting to aerobic stuff. I'm a geek about that stuff. So just it intrigued me, that world, and I think it was good for me that I didn't know much about it, because I didn't know anything about the training.
Fully fresh perspective.
Nothing about the training, nothing how they trained. I just knew what worked for me and worked for other endurance athletes. It's the same energy system and kind of what they do. And I just thought Chad needed a lot of work on the stability and strength, and he's never really. I'm like, what do you mean you never have done it? And he'd never done any of this, like, just strength training, more, athletic stuff. It was all new to him.
Just all on the bike and all cardio, basically.
Off the bike stuff, more the core work. And
but that's what he had done in the past, was riding and cardio.
Yeah, and I was just surprised how weak he was. Like, I'm like, what do you mean you can't do 2 push-ups? Like, just basic little any athlete should be able to do. I'm like, you don't know how to squat. You've never learned how do you not know how to hinge your hips? Any of that stuff. And so we pretty much started from, that's when Eric and I were first starting the foundation stuff.
Yeah, right.
Right then. It was right that exact same time. So Chad was the first one that came in on all that stuff, because I just met Eric. It's a funny story. Yeah. Eric came to Santa Barbara, came in the gym. He was a hippie guy, and I just, for something, I don't know, something about him I really liked. And usually I wasn't like that. And Eric and I hit it off really well, and he just showed me all the stuff he had. And I'm like, there's very few things that have really, I really
like
gravitate toward. Yeah, there's 4 or 5 things. And Eric, I'm like, okay. And that's where we became really close friends and just collaborated on a lot of the stuff. And I used it more for performance stuff, and he used it more for, he liked pain management and pain release. So we kind of had 2 different. I was in the sports world, and I had a lot of connections I was working with Lance at the time, and so I had a lot of connections with a lot of different high-end people. I go, Eric, this needs to be out there. So we named it Foundation, and Chad was it was right at the exact same time.
No way.
So Chad learned how to do all that stuff. He was like a guinea pig, actually. And
that's wild, eh?
Yeah.
Well, and so you said that you started working with Chad after he got that sickness.
I don't remember what it was. He had some sort of, it was like Epstein-Barr, something, and he went to Mexico and did all kinds of stuff. He was in bad. When the first time I met him, like, you just got to be kidding me. This guy's like, he was like a.
So he was in that bad a shape back
then? He was probably 200 pounds, and like, I took him in the gym, and in 2 seconds I was like, dude, you're like, how are you one of the best racers in the world? I was like, oh my, this is ridiculous. But Chad's a grinder, and he came up to Santa Barbara, and we just hit it off, and he worked, he got in great shape, and he really loved Santa Barbara. We had a great time, and I just showed him a whole, like I said, I didn't know what anyone did in the motocross center. I didn't know how they rode, how they lifted, anything. So I just did like, okay, here's what I've done.
Here's what I would do.
Yeah, and he bought in full force, and we just, got him stronger. We did all the foundation stuff. We just built him his body from the ground up, because he really had never learned any of that stuff before. And he turned into an animal on that, and he did really well. And that's when he started his team.
2-2.
Yeah.
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 So what year exactly did you start?
I think that was like 2010 or 11, somewhere in there.
Yeah, so you were there for like his
right when he came back.
Almost.
Yeah, right when he came back. Yeah.
Because he was in a bad way with like Epstein-Barr.
Yeah, bad.
Overtraining.
Yeah.
Like, does it surprise you that a guy that was so like physically weak when you got to him, that he could have drove himself into the ground the way that he did? Or is it like he probably did because he was so weak and didn't have like that foundation, and they were just like grinding like just taxing the body without having like the kind of the base there to, I guess, to prop that up.
Yeah, I think when I got Chad, I think you can get away with that when you're young until you're
like 35.
20, 26, 27.
Really?
28.
That early?
Yeah, because then, you're so imbalanced there's so many different things you use on the bike that make you kind of imbalanced. Like if you don't lift,
little stabilizers.
and if you don't lift and stay strong, it's eventually going to, for longevity, you're not going to be able to last. Things are going to start breaking. Things are going to start going wrong and getting injured. Little injuries and crashes are you're not going to be strong and stable and just little things. So I think that's why I'm glad I've gotten some of these young guys because I can, you can make their careers. They race 3 more years, they make a lot of money. So
Yeah.
so it's more for my stuff. The strength stuff isn't really okay. I mean, it's going to make them a lot better athlete, but longevity wise,
Yeah.
it's just going to give them, that kind of ability to go deeper in their careers because
Yeah.
they have the strength and the stability and to keep going longer.
Yeah. Does the whole like Epstein-Barr and like chronic fatigue and stuff make sense to you
Mm-hmm.
with those kind of guys?
Oh yeah, I just saw because it's the same thing because I kind of grew up in the heyday of triathlon back in the Wild West where.
Yeah. Did you ever race in Australia?
Yeah, I did Australian Ironman in
Sick.
1990.
No,
I did.
It was huge.
New Zealand. I did New Zealand and then went to Australia.
Yeah.
There's an Ironman World Series back then where you had to do like 8 Ironmans in a year, which was crazy.
Was it Uncle Toby's back then?
No, it was in I forget where it was.
Yeah,
it was in Sydney, right outside somewhere.
It would have been like Bondi or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
Bondi Beach.
yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah. So back then, I just think the Epstein-Barr. It was like in triathlons. We would go swim like a swimmer, ride 400 miles a week, and run 80 miles a week. And you saw Epstein-Barr all the time.
Yeah.
And I think the same was in motocross. What I saw when I first came in, they just rode a ton of long motos. They raced. They made everything in the gym look like CrossFit.
Yeah.
Just it was fast and furious, and just making it like another high intensity aerobic. Your body can only handle so much high intensity.
Yeah.
I think that's what gets the Epstein-Barr. It's just too much intensity.
Yeah.
And I'd see training programs where people would do 2 40-minute motos and then go do 5x5 mountain bike intervals on the bike. I'm like, what?
That's a lot.
You can't recover. I mean, you
Yeah.
can recover for a couple months, but then
Yeah.
it's going to kick you in the ass.
Yeah.
So I just saw. That's why I say we were in Santa Barbara, away from everything, and I'm just like, okay, let's just, we did a long,
Just chill.
yeah, we did a lot of weights,
Yeah.
to get him fit. We did a lot of gym, zone 2. They call it zone 2
Yep,
stuff
yep,
now.
yep.
Back then we just call it max aerobic or whatever, aerobic pace. And
Yeah.
Chad needed a lot of that because everything was like he's always in that gray area.
Yeah.
Kind of hard, but not really hard. And
Yeah.
we go on bike rides, and I go, "Why are you going so fast?" Like,
Yeah.
save it, and then in 2 days we'll do intervals and we'll go hard. But
Yeah.
he just had this. He just hadn't.
It's hard to commit to the zone 2 for people.
Mm,
Like when you tell them, like, because I started doing a bunch of running last year. I was
Yeah.
running we just did a race at the end of the year.
mhm.
And I was just started running, never done it before. And everything I watched on YouTube was like, run at zone 2, run
Yeah.
at zone 2. So then I got the Garmin and I started
Yeah.
doing it. And you just think you're wasting your time.
No.
Like for most people though, like even my mum just came and
Yeah.
stayed in Dubai, and I'm trying to get her, and I'm like, you'll run for a bit, and then your heart rate will go over, and you've got to come down.
Yeah.
So you're just playing this. I'm like, it's not hard. It just takes a long time. Like it's not hard workouts,
No.
But I think she was like, this is a waste of time.
Well, I started that in probably 90.
Okay.
There's a guy, Phil Moffatone, he was a famous triathlon coach back then. And he had this formula that they still use, 180 minus your age.
Yeah, yeah,
That's kind of your max aerobic pace. And we did that. And I just remember we would always test in the beginning of the year. I could run, at the beginning of the year, I'd say I'd run 6 miles at, say, 8:30 pace at my 180 minus your age. Zone 2, they call it now.
yeah,
By the season, I could run 6-minute pace at that.
yeah.
So you see what I tell the
Yeah, you can
athlete.
see your
The
body
athletes
change, right?
they see that change. I mean, that's the most. If you're in an Ironman and you're running 6-minute pace and not burning sugar,
Yeah.
you're gonna. I mean,
You can last.
yeah. The same with motocross guys.
Yeah.
We did like with Chase and Levi and Tom this year. We did 4 or 5 hour ride. We did a lot of volume, but it was very.
Yeah.
We went easy, and then we would do some hard stuff in the gym, and Versa climber. I just wanted a lot of different muscle groups. It was just general preparation. We did Versa climber, assault bikes, sleds. Just general. During that season, I always feel that is the most important part of their season right there.
Is that
by far,
preseason? Yeah.
the boot camp thing.
Yeah.
And
How long do you do it over?
we usually go from middle October to right about before A1.
Mm.
We start tapering in a couple weeks, but it's like if you don't have that, I mean, that sets up your whole year.
Yeah, 100%.
And if they don't get that in, I mean, because you live off that the whole year.
Yeah.
Because as you know,
It's like your bank account.
you have no other time to do that
Yeah.
in there. They go right from outdoors. They have like a week. So that's the most. And Santa, we've had this famous boot camp now. Like it's like Kenny, and we've had this. It's just like this perfect because we have all the hills, and I have the gym with all the VersaClimber stuff. But you have to be really careful with. We do a shitload of volume.
Yeah.
But it has to be really
The right intensity.
Yeah, like okay, and everyone has their heart rate levels, and you'll ask any of those guys. We'll go, okay, if we're on this climb, and do not stay with us.
Yeah.
I used to, we used to have to yell at Levi about that because he would just take off.
Because they're way off the back.
No, they would try. They would go. I go. There's no way you're at your heart rate.
Yeah, that's what, yeah. That's
No,
like
get the hell
if you're
back
at your
there.
heart rate,
Yeah.
you'd be way off the back.
Yeah. So we got to, by the end. Everyone knows their levels, and they don't. You have to, or otherwise you're going to overtrain, and you're not going to be able to do that volume.
Yeah.
And once you get overtrained in boot camp, you're done. I mean, you can recover, but you have to be really careful. So we have a pretty good routine now. We'll ride. On the weekends we'll ride. 80, 90 miles, and we'll be running and doing all kinds of different stuff. But that's just the one time of the year we can get everything. All the mitochondria and all the muscles with the VersaClimber and the sleds and just different stuff that's going to prepare them for for riding.
Yeah, 31 weekends.
Yeah, then once they start, and they're still by mid-November they're on their bikes again.
Yeah.
So then that 1 month before is where we really ramp it up to get all the base work, and then once they start riding, I got to mellow it out a little bit.
Yeah.
And most of their hard stuff is on the motorcycle, and we just go do Zone 2 stuff mainly on the weekends, and in the gym we do the conditioning, and we do all kinds of little fun races on the VersaClimber and all kinds of stuff. But that's definitely the most. That's pretty much my job.
Yeah.
The rest of the years, I'm not an on the bike trainer. I mean, I talk to them, and I know what they're doing. Like we decide like the motos, and just because I know the energy systems and how they work, but it's not. But they have just as much play
input on that.
Oh yeah, it's a two-way street. Even in boot camp,
Yeah.
I'll always look at them like, okay, if you're not absorbing this, this is not working. So
yeah, there's an end goal at sight.
And if someone's trash, will say, okay, you're only going 2 hours today. You're not going. And everyone's ego's at the door. They don't. It's not like we're like, I don't care. You're going 5 hours today, whether you feel like it or not. I would never do that.
Yeah.
You got to be smart that way, and especially with the young guys that have never done that kind of volume.
Yeah.
But it's the boot camps are great. But that I figure that's and then during the year I'm just managing them. Just making sure they're not overdoing it. Mental stuff. Because the ups and downs are.
Well,
crazy.
I think that's probably the thing that really is the most important during the season, right?
Yeah, just keeping them. Their heads on. Because it's such an up and down. Like. They'll be doing great for 2 weeks, and all of a sudden something will happen, then their brains just go south, and you have to just whirl them back in. And it's as you've seen the races. You can be on your high, and all of a sudden the wheels just fall off.
Yeah.
And you have to reel it back in, and it's like I always say, it's like motocross is like Supercross, especially like gladiators.
Yeah.
It's like whoever can sustain crashes and end up there at the end is gonna win. It's just a crazy sport. And
is that what kind of like kept you in when you kind of like get the introduction with Chad through Wasserman, and then you're like,
I was hooked after
holy
that.
fuck.
Yeah.
Like this is gnarly.
No, I love the world. I love the people, just the whole idea, because the sport's so perfect for me, for it's the strength with the endurance, and
yeah,
it's just the perfect. Is that you have to be fit. You have to be super fit.
Yeah.
And mentally very sharp. And I just like that all that stuff. Just
it's like it's the one sport that kind of combines everything for you.
Yeah, and the adrenaline, and I have 2 sons, and they were so into it. They loved going to the race. It was it was fun. It still is. I still love going to the races.
Where do you put motocross in terms of like the all-time difficulty in terms of sports, or like most demanding? There's always like that pound for pound ranking of like what's the hardest.
I think it's. I mean. I would say the Tour de France, seeing that and watching Lance go through it is probably the hard. That's just crazy.
That's pretty insane.
3 days, 3 weeks. You're going hundreds of miles every day. I mean, at the intensity, there's just so much that can happen that's wrong. So it's different because motocross is like you could die. It's like and the adrenaline and the spike of all that stuff. So and you're not on a bike, you're not carrying a 400-pound bike on in a Tour de France. So overall, I would say motocross is probably at the top of the list for as far as both having to do both. I mean, and then doing two 30-minute motos, it's like doing two 10Ks on the same day.
In the heat too.
And you could die if you don't do something right.
Well, you could just purely die
Yeah.
from heat exhaustion.
Yeah.
Like there
So-
have been guys that have just purely died from that.
So definitely, I'd put it at the top or very near the top.
Yeah.
For sure.
Which is pretty wild to think that there's just this very obscure sport. Like my wife had no
I didn't
idea of
either.
motocross.
I had
it's
no
like
idea.
So many people have no idea, and when you take them to a Supercross, it's just like, holy fuck! Like this is actually
No, the first race-
gnarly. And then if you rode a 450 one time, and just experience how much power that bike and how little control the average human has over that motorcycle, and then you watch what they're doing on the inside of a football field.
Yeah.
It's fucking mental.
Yeah. I think the first race I went to was A1 with Chad when he raced. And I just went,
That's a heck of a one to go.
and it
to.
was just like, the pits and the whole thing and the fans. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy, and then I was kind of hooked from there. And then I studied it, and then I kind of watched their heart rates and what they did and what they did in training, their motos. And, every year I've gotten better at, managing that part of it. And so every rider I get probably gets a little better version of me because I just learn.
Yeah.
And I'm not one to say I'm, one way's right. I'm always evolving. I have my principles, but I'll always learn like, oh, that didn't work or this works better. Like, like with Chase, I've worked with like 4 years now. And even like next year, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do something a little different with him.
Yeah.
Because you just learn, how they evolve and how they progress.
Well, you never really chased much of the limelight in the sport though, because like you can kind of get pretty famous being a trainer of famous
Yeah.
guys. Like, was that a pretty conscious decision, especially in moto, or is it just your style personally?
That's my style personally, I think. I don't really like the limelight at all. But I train so many other athletes, so many baseball players and famous baseball players and golfers and basketball players and and celebrities and CEOs that I don't know. I just didn't. I never. I mean, if you look at I barely post on Instagram. I never post who I'm training or any of that. I just never. I liked always being kind of just the under the radar kind of, legit guy. Like, hey, people just want to go to you, because of your reputation. Yeah. Not because I'm on Instagram putting, oh, here I am training whoever. Yeah. I just never, and like sometimes when people come in the gym, like, no, you're not posting anything here. Yeah. I just don't like it. I think it takes away from, I don't know, I just don't want to be in that drama.
No school like the old school.
No, I agree. I just didn't, I don't know. I just never have gravitated towards that.
And I guess, so you never really like niched down in a sense either. Like where you went and focused in on like one particular sport. I'm going to be like the best trainer in this particular thing. It's been so broad for so long.
I like using I just like, because baseball is totally different than motocross, and
so it's like a puzzle for you to
I just see the people, and I've got baseball's kind of become my second, motocross, baseball, and it's just in triathletes or whatever. But baseball, for some reason, I've had a ton of baseball players. And I really like the sport. I like what the power of it, and you have to be super strong. Where a motocross guy doesn't have to be nearly as strong as like a baseball player. Yeah. And a baseball player doesn't have to be nearly as fit as a motocross guy. Yeah. So it's a totally different workout program. I've had Chase's worked out with the baseball players a bunch. In the gym, there's a lot of crossover. Yeah. Just basic strength, and basic athleticism. But when it comes to preparation for what they do, it's totally different. Like the energy systems they use.
So, could you describe the perfect motocross racer? Like if you could just pump out the numbers that they should hit, the height, the weight, the strength, like what would be if you could just fully, ideally build a motocross athlete?
Probably Ken.
Yeah.
He's one. I mean, Chase, of course. Chase is the new breed.
Yeah.
I mean, he's strong as an ox. And, it's not because of me, really. If he water skis, he's going to get big. He's just like holding on to. He's just big naturally, and it's not like I'm doing a program like that's getting him big. Like when he was doing great in the outdoors against Tom, like I got all these DMs like, "Oh, you got him on Lance's program. He's taking steroids. He's taking." I'm like, dude, last thing Chase needs is steroids. Like, I mean, never. I mean, he would get so big it wouldn't even be funny. But no, I mean, Chase is another one. I mean, it's just different. Ken's 5'10", 160 pounds, strong, very. If I could morph, he's a little very fast twitch.
Yeah.
Like he can't handle a lot of volume like Chase could, as far as like putting in work. Like if I trained him like Chase, he would. I mean, not that it's any better or worse. Kenny would just.
But it's just
he would
different
fry
systems.
himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like if I could never put them in the same. Oh, we're just gonna do the same thing because Chase can handle way more volume. And not like I say, it's not a good or a bad thing. Like Dungy could handle the kind of volume, or Lance. Like they're in that same
They just got
category.
that big motor. You hear people.
Not that
say.
big. It's just probably just their physiology.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can just they're probably a little more slow twitch. They can handle more load and more volume without overtraining. Where you get these guys that are super fast twitch like Ken, who can jump 40 inches of single leg onto a box. It's
Really.
You can see it. Like you can see them when they're working out where they are. Ken's very low volume, high intensity, and he'll do much better.
Yeah.
Where Chase can just outgrind everybody.
Yeah.
Now he was like a Lance.
Yeah.
That kind of and people that try to train with him are going to overtrain because they can't handle that kind of volume. I mean, there's just anyone like I remember Lance told me he wrecked many careers for people trying to come to Europe and ride just his training program. You can't ride that kind of 500 miles a week, and no one could keep up with him because, and then their careers would never be the same because they were so overtrained.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's the same with Chase, and those guys. It's especially when I get them the young guys. No, you can't go do 240s like Chase. You're not there.
It's not your style, bro.
No, not yet.
Yeah.
We'll see, but not yet.
Yeah.
So, it's a hard time, I would have a hard time having a program with 6 guys and making them all do the same thing.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't work. Some guys would flourish, some guys would flounder.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's good that those guys kind of have their own, Chase will do a, 30-minute moto, Tom will do a 20.
Yeah.
And, and they go in the gym and do very similar things. But on different days, some people have different stuff.
Yeah. Kenny is a genetic freak, eh?
Oh.
And like Heiko as well. I mean, how fit his dad is.
Oh, I know.
Into his 50s
or
whatever. And just his dad's a fucking axe.
Yeah.
And Ken's an axe. And Ken has always been like that.
Always.
And it is wild. Like you watch him play. Like if Kenny decided that he wanted to play FIFA, he would be a professional soccer player playing for Germany.
Yeah.
Like he's
like that.
He's just one of those, natural athletes. How does it? Can you You're saying you can see that he's fast twitch. It's funny because like Ricky Carmichael always says it on the broadcast, like he's a fast twitch athlete, But it's like, how do you see that translate from being able to see it in the gym to seeing it on the bike?
Well, in the gym, it's easy to see when Ken's working out. He just bounces like a, And if I did I've always been super like when I worked. I did a lot of studying of like the Russian, how they trained, for the Olympics in '84. Like they won everything in powerlifting and Olympic lifting.
Steroids.
I don't know. Everyone says that's just like Lance. It's bullshit. Yeah. Like, I mean, they still had, the rep ranges and the intensity and went hard at this time. That's why those Russian guys lasted, 4 Olympics where the Americans would last 2.
Yeah.
Just because they trained smarter. So I just,
they did though, right? Like they're really,
smart.
they were really ahead. Obviously they were probably all using steroids as well.
They were.
But in terms of the way they trained, like didn't Russian powerlifters in those early days like really reinvent the way that people train?
Well, it was just, I studied, I have a really good friend now, Pavel, who's the kettlebell. He brought the kettlebell to the U.S. He's a close friend of mine now. And I just, he has like, interpreted all the Russian stuff, and he showed me all how they did it in the 80s and just the way they did, the percentages of maxes and like it was scientific. They had an algorithm for, how 5x5 on this day at 73% of max, and then it's 80% of max, and then it's all about most people go in and just go 90% of max every fucking time they lift.
Yeah.
And you're just gonna fry yourself. You're gonna go nowhere.
Yeah.
Where they were very meticulous, never went above like 85%. Every rep was perfect. Volume was up and down all the time, just variability of the loads all the time. They were super smart with and it works. I mean, I've tested on myself. I mean, I'm my own guinea pig. I always get a program. I go, okay, I'm going to see if I can go from a 300-pound bench to 340, whatever.
Yeah.
And then it's the people don't realize that the importance of the rep ranges and the intensity and and bringing it up and down every week and not doing the same thing. I mean, they had that wired, and I learned so much from
In the
that stuff.
80s.
And still, the records still hold from I mean, it's still. I mean, if you look at their stuff, it's still the most scientific. But it's not fun.
Yeah.
You ask Chase, he goes, "Fuck, are we doing the same thing again?" But it's just what works. I go, "Do you want cute or do you want what works?
Yeah.
Do you want me to put you on a Bosu ball with pink weights and curl and press, or put a motocross bar on a rower and it's not going to do anything?" What? I mean, you're in the gym to get strong and stable. You're not in there to be cute or do anything like a motocross. You do that enough. And I'm here to make you stronger and a better athlete, not a better motocross racer, because that's just going to turn over to that eventually.
Yeah.
So just learning that stuff. And I think Chad back to Kenny, you watch him in the gym. He if I'll do a lot of stuff where I'll go, okay, let's do a max bench press and let me see how many push-ups you can get. Kenny could probably get 10 push. I mean, he's just so fast twitch that he burns out fast.
Yeah.
Where for me, who has 90% slow twitch, could do a max bench and do 100 push-ups.
Yeah.
You just can see, their muscle fiber type, but just a few little tests.
Yeah.
Ask them to jump up on a box. You can see where they are. And I'll do a lot of my training based on what their physiology is. You can see, like, Kenny just can't. I mean, his body won't put up with that kind of volume.
Yeah. It's just like a drag car.
Yeah.
Like a top fuel drag.
Yeah.
It's just doing that. It's got that run and it's faster than anyone, but it ain't coming back to the start.
No, but luckily for Kenny, he had enough where he could train himself. There's undifferentiated fibers that can change to fast or slow. And luckily he was good enough where he could get where he was damn fit. Like then in 2016.
Yeah.
I mean, we had him that was I think the first or second year we were, and his boot camp was flawless. And then all the way, as you saw in outdoors, I mean, and then if he wouldn't have broken his arm that time,
oh, that's crazy.
He would have dominated for years.
Yeah.
Years. I mean, because it took us immensely everything. I remember going to his house after he got home from his surgeries, and it was just like, oh my God. I mean, it was sad. I mean, I made him do he'll still rail me for this. I made him do a one-arm ski erg for 10,000 with me, like just to get his heart, just to get his mind, like, okay,
back in the game.
Yeah,
like,
you can do this, but he still laughs and rails me about this. But yeah, but then he had so many surgeries, and then from all the being under all the time and all the stuff, he started getting a lot of sicknesses, and I mean he's done amazing. He's way more than I ever thought he would, and he's such a happier person now than he was. Yeah, but I mean, if he would have gone, I mean, from 2016, I mean he was mentally, everything, he was just unbelievable.
Well, and I think like even personally, like relationship wise, like he just fully got his life. His life was pointed. Yeah. Like he'd been bringing together all of the pieces of the puzzle for a long time. Like I first met Kenny, I think he was 16. Mm-hmm. And, like to watch him move the way that he has for that time, and like how loose the program was when he was a kid. Yeah. Like they didn't know like so much of what it takes to be that level. And it's like, it's such a cumulative effort over so many years to like get to that 16, 17 level. And then to have it ripped away in that fashion, I mean, the fact that he even came back from that. Yeah. I don't know.
Even though, he probably would have dominated for 5. I mean, a lot of good has come out of that. I see he's a different person now. Mm-hmm. He's so happy, and he's so fun to be around, and so much more happy to see other people do well. I mean, he was like me. He was like, when I was young, I hated to see other people do good just because I was so competitive. Like,
well, you need that to a point though, right? Yeah. Like there's definitely like a level at which like that much ego serves you well, but then there's also there's a point of diminishing returns where it's like it actually helps you more to shed that at a certain point.
But now I'm around him. It was just his birthday the other day, and I mean he's just a different person. I mean, he's just having fun, and I think he's just having fun racing. Yeah, and still doing amazing. Yeah, and like I said, luckily with him, all those guys I train, they're very smart, and like I try to teach them where they could almost.
Do it themselves.
Well, I teach them enough where the feedback is at first they don't really know anything. Like what are you talking about energy system? What are you talking about this? They don't know. But now Chase, especially, even Levi and those guys, but they know what I'm trying to do, and now the feedback is just as important. It's not like it's a one-way street. Like, oh, you're doing, this in the gym and 2 motos. I don't care how you. It was like, okay, how do you feel? What do you think you need this week? Do you need a little more speed? Do you need a little more? What do you think? Like, because I've never been into like just 40, 30, 30s, 20, 20s ever.
Yeah.
And I always talk to these guys into trying to split it up more and do more speed stuff and cut it up into intervals. They're motos.
Because I guess you would have the trust that the base stays there. Because I think that's the thing that everyone worries about, or like from the rider's perspective, is like, no, I need to do my 30s, otherwise I'll get tired on the weekend.
No.
Whereas like you are coming way more from a physiological side where you're like, no, bro, the base is there. Like you don't need to do 30s.
No, I mean, we do it's not like we never do it, but I'm
I
just
know.
saying week after week, 20s, 20s, 30s, 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 30s.
Yeah.
No, like
it's like you can do a week of just working on sprints or working on
and then do one moto, or two, and they're doing 2 on the weekends, during outdoors. It's
a lot.
so and so and during like for instance for like Levi on the off and Tom on their off weeks they had 2 or 3 because they're West Coast East Coast. Sometimes they had 4 weeks. We'd put in some gnarly long stuff during those first 2 weeks of their off week. Like, okay, go do outdoors and do, 230s, twice a week. That puts in that, we have like a mini boot camp. The 450 guys don't get that option.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. But, the 450, the 250 guys get a good little boot camp in between usually. Yeah. Because they each had like 4 or 5 weeks off, at different times. Yeah. So we put in a lot of outdoor stuff, longer stuff during that period, just this past couple weeks or, month.
Yeah. And so when we go back to Kenny, like talking about like on the bike, like what stuff do you see on the bike where you're like, oh, that's a fast twitch thing?
Oh, just the way he comes out of corner, just how twitchy he is on the bike. Yeah. And you can see it running. I'll take him running and his sprint speed and his all-out speed on like the assault bike. I'll test them on a 6-second sprint, and I can see what their wattage is, exactly where their muscle fire is. Yeah. You get someone, like someone that's slow twitch. I'm not gonna mention any names, but they'll get like 800 watts.
Let's say me.
Yeah, no, 800 watts, or like me, I can barely get 1100 or 1200, and where Chase gets on there and gets 2000, or Kenny would probably get 2300. So it's pretty easy. I mean, if you have the eye, it's pretty easy to see, and then that their muscle, they're not going to be able to put in that kind of volume. There's no way. Yeah. I mean, like Lance could jump like an inch. Like, I mean, he was way slow twitch. He could just go forever at a certain, threat. I mean, he was like 450 watts for 30 minutes sometimes, on a test before the tour. Like 7 watts per kilogram, threshold pace. So, I mean, that's just wild.
Yeah, like huge numbers.
Oh, no, like most people are like 5 or 4. That's like your weight divided by the, how much wattage. Your wattage is divided by your weight, and it gives you, a number. Yeah. Most people, we tried to get our aerobic, at like over 3 watts per kilogram. That'd be like holding on our exercise bike like 250 watts, for an hour at, for me, that'd be like 120 heart rate, which is still, that's a lot of power. That's where you want to get, you're super efficient there, and then the high-end stuff is way easier.
Yeah, okay.
So that's what that Zone 2 is for, is to build that plumbing, I call it, to be able to, have that aerobic capacity, and then, when you want to do the hard stuff, you can do it, and you can recover from it.
Yeah. I noticed that in the training that I did, because I didn't have a trainer or anything, all I could kind of do was run, because me and my wife moved around so much last year. So I just bought running shoes, and I would just go, and I'd actually just do the workouts that my watch suggested.
Yeah.
Do you use much heart rate stuff, like with the Garmin's?
Oh, yeah.
And do you go like follow HRV and stuff like that?
Yeah, we look at the HRV for sure.
Okay.
All that stuff, for recovery stuff, but I don't,
You don't live by it.
Not really. Not unless it's a huge problem, like if someone's super overtraining, then we'll look at the numbers a lot. Yeah. But I don't like them to look at it on race day or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely we look at that. Rest, heart rate, your temperature in the morning,
Okay.
Because you can see a lot of, but that aerobic pace is important. Because if I see a guy that comes to me and, can only go like 90 watts at, your aerobic pace. That's not very efficient.
Yeah, yeah.
You want to see them at the 200 watt, at least,
Yeah.
So it's funny because when we first ride during boot camp, everyone is like, oh, fuck, this is so fucking slow. It's like you said, it's
Yeah,
boring.
yeah.
But
Well, you kind of don't think it would work.
it does.
But after a while, like, yeah, I started doing my runs, and I'd be like, to try and keep like 140 BPM,
Yeah.
120. I'd like run for fuck all, and
No,
then I'd have to
you gotta
stop,
jog.
and then I'd have to walk.
Yeah.
No, I'd be like jogging and then having to walk
Yeah,
basically.
you
Like,
do.
I couldn't even sustain a jog, and then it was like, dude, I'm stop. Couple weeks, and I'm just doing 5Ks.
Yeah.
Just a consistent
Yeah.
running pace, and then you can start to see that you can just go longer and longer. It's so scientific. Like, it's so easy
works.
if you just do
It works.
X, Y, like, yeah. And, but I noticed I didn't really do intervals much.
Mm-hmm.
So I noticed when I got to the race that I had a motor to do my 20-minute motos, but like anytime I had to like really sprint, and
Yeah.
I would just fucking heart rate would blow up and I'd die.
Yeah, you have
So
to do some intervals.
I didn't
Yeah.
have that extra that you were.
But when you have that really high aerobic pace, like, you hardly need 2 weeks of intervals, 3 weeks, and you can be
See, I should have fucking. I wish
right
I
there.
knew.
You can be right there.
I wish I
literally, if
knew.
you're that fit aerobically in that low end, literally it takes 4 or 5 hard workouts and you're right there.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Why is that?
Because
the
you're
heart's
so you
adaptive.
have all the mitochondria in your muscles and your slow twitch, and you're just like a machine. You're a battery.
So what's mitochondria and what is
That
it?
mitochondria is like the powerhouse of the cell, and that when you do a lower end aerobic, that just builds more of them and healthier, and it just creates its better oxygen, carrying capacity, and it just makes everything easier. That's what makes you more efficient.
Yeah.
And if you don't have, it's like doing, you can still have high, someone like Kenny, if he didn't train at all, he'd still have that high end 7-second sprint because of his muscle fiber type, but he wouldn't be able to do like Chase and those guys during the boot camp. We do, 7-second sprints every minute. They could get to 60 of them on the assault bike and reproduce, 1,500 watts every single sprint. Where if you're not fit, if you don't have that low end,
Yeah,
you're gonna go like
do it a couple of times.
10,
Yeah.
8,
Yeah.
and you'll never be able to sustain it. That's where that it just makes everything easier in that high end.
Yeah. So it makes sense with Kenny, right? So like the races that he wins, whole shot, sprint speed in the first, or maybe not even just whole shot, but he's out in front in the first lap, and then he'll make a quick pass, and then he's gone, and he just there's too much of a gap for people to close down, and so like the way that I'm hearing it from you is like he's so explosive, and it is purely based on the way that his physiology is made up, that he has that ability to throw down, and then he'll dip into the more aerobic system to just get through the rest of the moto and already have the gap that people can't then close down.
Yeah, agree. But I think like during 2016 in that area, we were able to train like very high volume and for Kenny.
Yeah.
So I think
because
with all
you had consistency
and
over
and
time.
with all his surgeries and stuff, he's had all this Epstein-Barr like after the surgeries.
Yeah.
He can't put in that kind of volume anymore without having to get sick or something happen. He's had to really kind of give and take with his volume, and I think some of that is training, like where he gets in front and he just doesn't have the training that he had before to keep just dominating the whole way through.
Yeah.
He's had to kind of weave in and out of training because he'll get sick, but he's done an incredible job with what he's had to do with,
Yeah.
Because if he gets sick, if he goes too high and he gets sick, he's out for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then he just goes way back.
How hard is it for you to watch that?
No, it's not. I mean, it's just the way his body. I mean, it is what it is. So
But it must be like disappointing in a way.
No, it is.
Like, because you know what
he's
had to
capable
go
of.
through, and like, because I think from a media perspective, like, man, people were super hard on Kenny.
They don't realize what he went through.
Yeah, but the narrative is like Kenny doesn't work hard. Kenny,
that's not true. He works harder than anyone. I'm proud of him because he's really had to manage that sickness with training and be careful because he wants to go train more than anybody. He loves to do the work, but he knows if he goes over, he's going to get overtrain and he's going to get the Epstein-Barr flare up and he'll get. I mean, he went through a lot. Not only the surgeries and the going under anesthesia and all the shit they had to put in him. I mean, just mentally.
I was gonna say mental trauma, dude, is huge.
Yeah, imagine and then whether is he ever going to ride again? And I mean, he's done unbelievable for what he has to deal with right now. No, no one. I mean, I think he's doing the best he probably ever could. But if he could put in that kind of, where he was like, okay, fine, I'm never going to get sick. I can put in the kind of volume I did back then. He would still be up there, And he still is. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
He's still, but I just, he's a different person now. He's had to train differently. He can't train like he did when he was 22 or 23 or 24. He's got 2 kids now.
Yeah.
He can't afford, and he's around germs all the time. I mean, he's a different human being, and he's happy though.
Yeah.
So I think Kenny's done better. Anyone that says, that's why I hate reading about. So, oh, he's just lost his. No, he hasn't. Yeah. He's just as hungry as he ever was. He just has to manage a lot.
Yeah, and that stuff people just don't get to see.
No.
And it always comes across as an excuse from an athlete. And it's honestly really cool to hear you talk about it in this way, like from this perspective, because it's very clear with the way that you're talking about it. Like, oh, okay, like he is extremely limited in terms of what he 100%. Can do as a result of these injuries and
sickness what he's gone through. I mean, he's gone through a lot. I mean, we went through so many doctors. I mean, it's like he wasn't faking this. I mean, for God's sakes. I mean, it was real, and it was it was hard to watch because he knew where he was. I mean, if this was it wasn't denial, but when he had the arm, it was like, oh shit, I was on top of the world. Like no one. I mean, he was like king, and then all of a sudden he had to he had some depression. I mean, not clinical depression, but it's hard to sit in your room
depression that comes with it and watch career-ending injury
and watch what's going on. And then he went through a lot of ups and downs, and questioned himself and questioned everything. And now he's back, and I think he's happiest he's ever been.
Yeah, and I think that kind of perspective, like the hardest thing that you go through in your life, always gives you crazy perspective on the other side of it, if in fact you do make it to the other side.
And I'm Kenny and I are still super close, and I just feel proud that okay, he learned what we did. He can train himself. I mean, it's always better if you have someone to keep you accountable, but he'll still go, okay, Peter, I'm going to do a salt bike. He'll still call me and, hey, can you give me a workout? Yeah. And so, I mean, I'm not training him, but we're still, and when I'm in Florida, I go over and see him, and, Chase and I and Levi, we all go over to his house and work out and ride bikes. But Kenny's very smart. Like he could take a young guy and pretty much train him.
Yeah.
I mean, cause he wouldn't be, it's harder to train yourself, but he could take it. He's very smart. And he always wanted to know why was I doing this? And why should we do this? And so he knows he's smart. And so and that's why I feel good. I'm like, okay, you can train yourself, you can, but he just runs stuff by me once in a while, but we still have a great relationship, and, same with Chad.
And so when you talked about like he's the perfect athlete, like what other attributes do you think that he has physically that would like lend it to being
strong.
Perfect?
He's super strong.
So power to weight ratio.
Oh, he's super strong. Like if he wanted to, he could deadlift 5 plates.
Really?
For sure. I mean, if I wanted to I would never do that because he has a spondylolisthesis. He has a little back issue. It's not really an issue anymore, but I'm not going to put 5 plates.
You're not make him dead.
No, and he can do 40 pull-ups if he wanted to. I mean, he's just a freak athlete. Like you said, he could probably play any sport, tennis, whatever he wanted to do.
Yeah.
He's just, if you look at, there's some motocross guys that all they know how to do is ride a motorcycle. If you get them to run, or they look like horrible. Yeah. And like what it's funny because that's the difference between like Adam and Ken.
I was thinking of Cinderella.
So when I got Adam when he was at his worst, like I mean,
what year?
2016 or so. He was
injured
and going through it. And Ken called me and goes, "Hey, can you train Adam this year? I want him to come to boot camp." And they were good friends, I think, from training at Alden's. And, When I first saw Adam, oh my god, like
And this is like
it's funny because the first time
phenom
Adam
of all
trained, the first
phenoms.
time he trained with Harry Styles in L.A. I was training Harry at the time, and when I was in L.A. and Harry like ran circles around them, and I was like, and Adam was just like, it was someone that I had to get more athletic. Like he was just anything off the bike. It was like, I called him like the baby deer because he just like was like all arms and legs, but fuck, did he get strong?
Really?
Oh my god.
Huh.
Yeah. I mean, by the way, Adam's one of my favorite people of all time.
Honestly, same.
Still talk to him. Every time he has something good, I'll call him or text him. But still,
He's one of the nicest people
oh,
ever.
and genuine. My kids
Hands
still.
down.
My kids were really young when he was up, but they're just like, "Oh, where's Adam?" They still talk about him. And everyone at the gym, all the people at the gym, like, "Oh, how's Adam doing? How's Adam doing?" But when he came, he was just. I mean, oh my god, like his body was wrecked. Shoulders. He couldn't. He was weak. He couldn't. I mean, watch him run up a hill. It was painful to watch him run up a hill. So we
Just like
start
the knees going.
yeah,
and
everything.
then
So we started just from all the foundation stuff and damn, did he get good.
Huh.
He was deadlifting 4 plates by the he turned into an athlete. Like he really did. And once he it wasn't like we broke up or like he left.
Yeah,
It was just
yeah.
one of those things where Nick was with him full time.
Yeah.
And I don't, he didn't want to, pay me and pay him. And he knew enough of my stuff where he could use it wherever he wanted. And I felt really good about it. Like, okay, he's safe.
Yeah.
And he can do his thing. And we still talk, even when he, didn't train with me, I talked to him probably every couple weeks.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, I knew he knew how to do, but, he needed more of the stuff that Nick could do.
Yeah.
And Nick is a great guy. I mean, he came up to the gym a bunch of times and it was fine. I mean, so that's what I'm saying. I'm glad I got to see Adam those 2 or 3 years and teach him all the strength stuff and how to be safe and how to tension his body and how to, do whatever he needed to do in the gym and on the off the bike, just his aerobic system, and he knew how to do everything.
Yeah.
So when he left, it wasn't like he left. It was just
Yeah. I get.
did
what
a
you're
different, and he just didn't need me to do the same thing. And Nick was able to do that too, and he lived there.
Yeah.
And it was fine.
Is it crazy to you when you watch someone like Adam, though, how amazing they are on the motorcycle, and just like the athleticism that it takes?
That's what I'm saying. He did it.
It's
It's a skill.
It blows my mind.
No, it's a skill. I had a surfer like that. I don't know. No, he's never going to hear this. Remember a guy named Sean Thompson?
Yeah.
He won a
Wasn't
bunch
he
of.
from Santa Barbara?
No, he's from South Africa, but he lived in Santa Barbara.
Ah, okay.
After he retired, I remember seeing him in the gym, and I'm like, oh my god, like it was the most unathletic person I'd ever seen in my life. But he could surf. That's what I'm saying. It's the same thing. They have this one skill.
Specific.
But I knew for Adam, in order to be able to race, I mean, too bad something happened, with his arm. I wanted him to be resilient more, and it did. Like he got strong, and when he crashed, he didn't break like he used to.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm always telling these guys. Like, okay, we're not in the gym getting strong. Just
Like you have to take hits.
you have to. It's like I say, it's like gladiators. If you're not strong and stable, your shoulders and your body and your core and everything, like one crash and you're out 3 races. Where if you're strong, I mean, your chances of unless it's something like Kenny did,
Yeah.
But like Chase has fell a million times, and he's like a tank.
Yeah.
And just as strong. Like I always say that like the old Louis Simmons, weak things break. If you're not strong, and that was the main thing when I saw Adam. I go, Adam, we got to fucking get stronger.
Yeah.
Like that's your number one priority in this whole thing for 2 years. We have to get you stronger and more resilient. So when you ride and you crash, you're going to be able to be a lot more resilient.
Is it crazy that that's not more obvious?
I don't know if people think about that. I don't know. See, that's the thing.
Seems obvious.
It does, but
Like you're taking massive hits.
But when I first came in, I remember I used to hear what the normal motocross workout, and I was just like, why? And I'm like, I don't get it. I don't understand. Why are you going in the gym and making everything like an aerobic? Like, high reps and, like fast and furious. And I'm like, what is that doing? You're doing this, you're working this exact same
You're doing that there.
energy system on the bike, and you're not getting any stronger. You're not getting any stronger doing, 100 reps or 30 seconds of work.
Yeah.
So I just didn't. I just saw the gym was strength is strength and endurance is endurance. I never mixed the two, other than grindy sled sets with carries and all kinds of other stuff. When it was planned, like okay, we're gonna do a grinder today. We're gonna go an hour. We're just gonna carry heavy things up
Just gonna lift
hills.
shit and move.
We're gonna
them.
move. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not at a super fast. It's just a grindy like strength. Walk up hills with kettlebells, switching, sleds, all kinds of different sandbag carry, whatever. And we do that a lot in boot camp. That's just general preparation for for your body's moving and
To
lifting
be
up.
a gladiator.
Yeah, yeah. So it was just a little different way of instead of going in the gym and doing okay, we're gonna go 30 seconds, push-ups and this and that, and I just never saw it that way. I came from a strength background, and like okay, you need to get strong. Like there's a motocross guy. I say if you can deadlift 400 pounds, bench press over your body weight, there's certain things I go, okay, you have to be able to do this. There's no getting around it.
What would your list be?
Probably 4 plates on a hex bar deadlift.
So what's that work out to be?
405 pounds.
Okay. How many kilos is that?
I don't know.
200 kilos.
Yeah,
basically.
something like that. Yeah. Bench press, at least 185 pounds. Pull ups at least 8 to 10.
Yeah.
Just be stable. Like I can look at someone in the gym. Okay, you can move.
Yeah.
You know how to move. You know how to hinge your hips. You know how to lock in when you're doing stuff. You just look good.
Yeah.
You look safe. You know how to tension your body. That's the whole foundation of what stuff is about.
Yeah.
Teaching that. Like, once you got the foundation down, all that other stuff in the gym just comes like that.
Yeah.
And that's what I gravitated toward Eric towards. I'm like, oh my God, that's why we called it foundation, because it's the foundation of everything you're going to do.
It is pretty insane, eh?
It's everything. I mean, it's teaching your body how to stack itself,
Yeah.
right on top of the rib cage, on top of the pelvis, on top of to learn how to tension and hinge your hips and stay engaged. And, that's the stuff people just don't. You watch a lot of new guys and they just look like noodles.
Yeah.
There's no tension, there's nothing. And you can see it turn over to the bike. Because that's not like I ever told Kenny or Chase, like, oh, I want you to ride like this and stick your hips out and lock in. And it just happens. You can
Because
see
of the
pictures.
position that you're
You can
in.
see
Yeah.
pictures of
Yeah.
even Levi's, gone to me like, fuck, dude, I'm riding totally different. Like
You can see it in Levi.
I just feel like I'm just in my hips more, and I'm not, I don't get arm pump anymore, and I don't do any of this.
Yeah.
I don't tell them like, do that. Like it just happens naturally, just from doing the movements over and over and over again. I always, in fact, I just told Levi the other day, I'm like, I don't care how fucking boring it is, do it every day. It's like
Foundation training.
yeah, it's like doing scales on a piano for a piano player. Like you just and be engaged when you do it. Don't just because 3 weeks ago I went to Nashville and I'm warming him up. Like he goes, this burns. Yeah, I go because you're fucking thinking about it now. You're not just going through it and doing it without thinking. You got to think about it and you be engaged where your heart, your head is, and your neck and your rib cage and everything. Otherwise, you're just going through the motions. You have to be present and actually think about what you're doing.
It's funny. I asked Chase because I've been doing some foundation stuff after since Eric came on, and I'm like, oh, when are you doing it? Thinking about as a workout, and he's like, it's just fucking every day.
Yeah, he just does it every day.
Yeah, no, don't. This isn't like a workout.
No,
I don't look at foundation training as a workout.
No, he just does it.
And I was just like, damn, bro.
Yeah,
because when I do it, I'm fucking sore for days.
No, but that'll that's just because you're engaging muscles you haven't used.
Yeah,
and that's the thing with Levi and Tom. And it's like you're doing it. I don't care. It works. And you can see just like Tom, who's never really done stuff like that. You can just see every week. I'm like, yeah. Last time I saw him do it, I'm like, okay, you got it now. Like you're just about there. Because there's a certain way Eric and I want it to look, And like I said, Eric uses it more for I'll do it a little differently. I think more. I'm not so much into the big chest and the decompress. I'm more in learning to tension your body, just safe lifting, and just activating everything. It's the same thing. It's just a little different reason why we do it. Yeah. But so I just want it to look a certain way. Like you can see who's good at it and who's not just by the way they move and where their head is and where their rib cage is and those guys have all gotten very good at it.
It's funny. So how the whole thing started, right? So I had Chase on the podcast a while ago. I can't even remember.
Yeah, it was in 2021. I listened to that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so Do you remember the bit where I was like, I was breaking down. I was like, okay, I want to break down your technique to you, and
I remember that.
I want to like see if I'm on the right track
Yeah.
here. Because there was just this one video I watched of him, and I just was like pausing the slow. Because I'm a fucking nerd.
Yeah,
I love
that's good.
riding.
That's
I
good.
love
That's how I am with rep ranges and intensity and same thing.
my brain. That's how it works.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I need shit to be like. I need to break it down, understand
Uh-huh.
it, and I feel like once I can't see any holes in it, then I'm in.
Yeah.
And I can't unsee it, you know. And so I was like, I pause it. I'm like, his kneecap is never in front of the front arch of his
Yep.
foot, and you can sort of like see him
That's
be
the foundation. Yep.
like, he's like, yeah, it's foundation, it's
Yep.
founder. And then once I went after that podcast and I watched I'm pretty sure it was at your gym, like
Yeah, it was.
the video
Yeah.
that Eric did.
It was both of those.
And I was like, that's the
Yeah,
movement.
that's
Like
it.
this dude literally invented the perfect movement for motocross.
Yeah.
Like that is, and if you watch Chad Reed and the Whoops, if you watch any
Mm-hmm.
of those guys, that hip hinge position. And the other thing that was kind of like the light bulb moment for me with that podcast with Chase, like been riding my whole life, and that just fully changed my my riding life.
Figure it out.
You know?
Yeah, yeah.
And he was like, when I'm riding, the most tension I feel is in my feet.
Yep. That should be.
And
That's why when people get tons of arm pump, I'm like, okay.
I don't get arm pump now, ever.
Yeah, I know why.
Yeah.
You know, like
I use my bike now. Like
Yeah.
all my weight is like behind my foot pegs and like centered around where like my knees are. And I'm not squeezing with my knees ever. That feeling of like putting in with your, I think that's the feeling that everybody would describe, or like when I was a kid, my dad would say, my dad was a good rider, he'd say, squeeze the bike with your knees.
Yep.
But it's like that, the power, you have fuck all power in your hip flexors essentially to like bring your knees in. But that weight of hinging at the hips and pushing away and using the foot pegs as your leverage point, it's like the furthest part away. It connects to all of the posterior chain and it locks you into the back of that motorcycle. Game changer.
Yep.
Complete game changer. And Chase was like the poster boy for it.
Yeah, because in the gym, we kind of turn that foundation over to that. Like if we're doing like a drop lunge in a Zercher position, like I'll look at their knee and go, okay, that knee can't change angle.
Yeah.
That shin has to stay in the exact same spot. You know, because usually when people go too heavy, they'll
go
shift
forward.
And they'll shift their hips back and they'll use their back to get out of the bottom. I'm like, you got to keep that shin. It does not move when you come out of that squat. And so it's just using, that's where the foundation, you can use it all. It just transforms over to the same, it's the same principles to lifting. And if, you know, I mean, I like you with your position on the bike, I'm a total geek in the gym. It's like positions have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Like if you're not, you know, you can see someone that's doing, you know, it's like, it's not a max, it's the reps you can do perfectly.
Yes.
You know, anyone can do a max and look like that's not a max. That's just a dumb. You know, it's like, you know, I'm saying, what's your max perfect rep?
Yeah.
Perfect rep, not max. Like, you know,
what's the max weight you can move? It's what's the max deadlift?
Perfect.
And a deadlift is this thing exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a thing you can do that lifts the weight off the ground, but that's not a deadlift.
And I think that's where most people go wrong in the gym. They don't look at the technique like that, and they just don't vary their loads enough.
Yeah.
It's like 90% every fucking time. Every time. It's like, you know, 5 reps, same weight. They don't, you know, like I'll go 80%, you know, 90, 75, one workout. You know, you got to vary it. It's to recover, and your body just doesn't like the same thing.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get stronger doing 90% of max every single time.
Yeah.
Never. I mean, I've seen it. I've tried it. It doesn't work. You know, you see high school kids that every time they go to the bench press, they'd max out every single time. That's like 95% of max, and their just nervous system's going to get fried. They're never going to get stronger.
Yeah.
They'd be better off going at 80% and keeping there the whole time. Like the Russians do maybe 5 reps a week at 90% of max. That's it. And that's why they get so.
Needs.
That's all. I mean, you don't need more than that.
Well, I guess it's almost. I mean, it's a oversimplification, but it's almost like the zone 2 of. Like,
it is
strength.
It is. You know, you're going to get stronger doing. You know, keeping it about the 80. That's the sweet spot. 80 to 85% of max. You know, you have to overload the tissue, but you can't. You can't do that high end, or you just got to vary it. Like they always say, by 10% every workout.
Yeah. So with Chase, I think he's probably a guy that you've got that everyone before Jet Lawrence touched the 450, Chase was like prodigious in terms of like what he was able to do, the way that he looked, the speed that he had, the physicality, and like he was the first guy when I did that podcast with him, especially like I saw in him, dude, the sport's changed. Like now that there's a guy like him, because there's like this weird, it's like a very weird eccentric way to look at the sport, right? But it's so niche in terms of like who is going to buy a motorcycle as a kid. It's a very small population as opposed to baseball, cycling, triathlon. You know, like so the gene pool that you've got to pick from isn't standard in a sense. Like baseball, you've got kind of everybody. It's like going to funnel into that gene pool, and then a certain lot of genetics are going to like rise to the top of that gene pool. Yeah. Whereas moto is kind of like this fucking, it's like a puddle. It's not really a gene pool. It's like a gene puddle. Right. Like random rednecks that bought their kids bikes. And
luckily you'll get some guys like Chase that have talent.
And then
Jet.
That's right. Over time, that puddle turns into a gene pool. And then you kind of start to see these genetic freaks appear. And then they get more and more regular. And then it's like college football or like the NFL or basketball. The sport gets so professional and so pointed that only these specific gene types.
Like Darwinism.
It is. That's 100% what it is. And it's like, that's why fucking rich girls are hot.
Yeah.
Because the rich dad's probably fucking the hot chick. You know, that's how that works. So we're like just now getting to the point in the sport where it's like attractive for a parent to buy their kid a dirt bike because there's a potential to make millions of dollars and there's more investment and there's like, you've got generations of kids that are getting into it. Right. And I think Chase and Jet and Kenny are like this modern day example of like these kind of genetic freaks. They're probably going to start to dominate the sport just purely based on the boxes that they tick in terms of their physical criteria.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you think we sort of see that with Chase, like especially, or
Chase? Yeah. I mean, he's a freak in the gym. I'm like, every year I've learned from Chase needed to get a little more stable and strong. He had he broke his leg one year and he had a lot of issues with his hip but now he's so strong, like getting him any stronger is not going to make him any better. He can deadlift out of the room. I mean, like how much, you don't need a 800-pound deadlift to ride a motorcycle.
What could he do, you reckon?
If I did it like in a Russian, like,
well, even just
build up program right now, he could do 5 plates. If I said, okay, I don't care if you get hurt, just fucking lift this thing off the ground. I mean, that's what I'm saying. So every year we've learned, and he barely has to lift anymore. I make him lift, and he hates it sometimes, but because but I'd go, you got to maintain it at least. You're not gonna, we're like Levi and Tom have a long way to go. They
need to lift.
They need to lift, stronger. And so they do. And like for instance, Chase isn't lifting this week. He needs to rest. He has a little sinus infection. I'm like, no, that's too much of your energy pie. You just stay away. Yeah. And in boot camp next year, I've already thought about it. I mean, Chase probably will do a lot more like cardio stuff with him. He'll of course he'll lift, but I won't do quite as much. He doesn't need. I mean, he's there. It's very easy to maintain strength once you got it.
Okay.
Super easy. A few reps of 80%. Every week
you're basically just reminding your muscle what
you're not going to lose it. Yeah. It's not. Once you got it, it takes a long time to get it, and it's not just getting it; it's learning how to do it right. And lifting's a skill. People don't see it that way, but you can go in and see a really good lifter and a really shitty one.
For sure.
So I always want my guys. Okay, people see them in the gym like, oh fuck, he has a good trainer. They know how to do it. I can watch someone do a kettlebell swing and know if they've had a good teacher or not. Yeah. In 2 seconds. Yeah. Just the way they do the way they breathe, the way they swing the bell, if they're hinging or squatting or whatever they're doing, you can see it. And okay, just a kettlebell swing, you can see like, okay, this guy's had a good teacher, or he hasn't. One of the two. So Chase doesn't really need any more strength. In fact, he could lose a little muscle actually if he wanted to. He's a big guy, but again, like you said, the new breed, the triathlete that's winning everything is 185 pounds.
Really?
This guy from Norway. I mean, like unbelievable. He's 100 and he's going 7 hours something in an Ironman, and he's all about. It used to be about okay, how thin can you get and how
Yeah.
He's like, I got to eat enough to stay in positive energy balance to do the kind of training I need to do this kind of work and to do this kind of times. And so it's kind of changed. And he's chunky. He's a little chunky. If you watch him run, it's like, oh, he's got some fat on him. But Chase doesn't need to lose. I mean, like everything they say, oh, you need to be so lean to be on a. No. I mean, if your body type is, to be thin like Levi, he has to. I mean, Levi can't keep weight on. We have to, like, during his off season and during his off weeks. I'm like, dude, you got to gain 5 pounds. We need you 170 by outdoors.
Yeah.
You can't be 160 when you start outdoors. It's just going to go down from there.
Yeah.
And you're going to get sick, or you're going to get something's going to. We need to start a little overweight or a couple pounds up.
Yeah.
Because if you get to outdoors and you're 160 and already on that, peaking weight, then you have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So we really worked on gaining some weight on the, but it's got to be a job for him.
Yeah.
Where Chase is the opposite. I go, dude, stop eating. It's like he'll just eat. It's not like it's just like stop eating junk. You need to be 180. You can't, because if Chase ate like he wanted to,
he'd be 220.
Oh, he just looked like
yeah.
he looked like his dad's a big guy.
Yeah.
And he can't. And so I have to kind of really watch what what he eats. He's a different, where Kenny when he was young could eat whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
Now, if he's not careful, he'll get chunky. Not chunky, but you know what I mean, for him.
Yeah.
He's got his diet dialed with, the carnivore. He's kind of a carnivore kind of guy. And it's helped his immunity and stuff. So everyone's, that's the thing. The diet's way different and we're like Tom, is pretty kind of in between.
He just eats baguettes and.
Well, I have to work with him on that. No, but he grew up in Europe and it's a little different, but Tom's mentally very strong.
Yeah.
Like he's a grind. I just saw him in boot camp. On bike rides, I could just see that quiet, like I'm gonna fucking kick your ass on this hill, like you're not, no 58-year-olds beating me up this hill. I don't care. I'll die before I let you beat me.
Yeah.
He's, so that group is really fun. Those three guys, they work really well together. It's fun for me but it is different because they
all need such different things.
Yeah, like Chase doesn't need the strength that Levi and Tom does. Like I said, in boot camp next year, I'm already thinking about like, okay, we'll mellow out a little bit more on the weights with Chase, and that's what I like about Chase. He's open, and I talk to him, and he agrees. We talk, and we'll go, okay. He'll go, I just think I could be a little leaner up top, and which is fine. Like when I worked with Lance, like his coach Brunel used to just rail me if I did anything. He told me I want the legs of a power lifter and the upper body of a 12-year-old girl. He goes, that's what because Lance was like Chase.
Really?
Lance was 190.
Lance is a big dude.
Lance was 190 in the off season, and he had to be 162 at the tour.
Really?
Yeah, and he would every year he'd be 185, 190. Just his body, he had to be way thinner than. I mean, it's different in the you can't be 185 and climb those hills of the Tour de France.
No,
you're not. It's not happening. You're not. I don't care. In triathlon it's flat and you don't have to climb the hills. But Lance had to be that straight, and he only did it like 3 weeks before the tour.
Cut the weight.
Yeah, he didn't care about any other race but the tour.
Yeah.
So he'd be 190 in like December, and then during the classics maybe 175, 180, and then in June like the Dauphiné or something, that's when he would start to we'd see him start to dominate, and that's where he just had his body weight. He had it down to a science. Like that's the one thing I learned from watching Lance is he had that same formula every fucking year. Like he knew what worked. The same kind of training, the same eating, like what worked, what races worked. And that's what we're with the young guys and with Chase, like, okay, what is your program that we can reproduce every year?
Yeah.
So far with Chase, we've tweaked it a little bit every year. It's the same, it's similar, but just every year we kind of go, okay, this, we talk at the end of the year, okay, what do you think we can change this year? What, let's talk about what went wrong, what, did you get a little tired here, tired there? And then we'll just kind of write stuff down and start with, like this year, I think it's going to be a little less lifting, a little more cardio stuff for Chase.
Yeah.
It's not like he gets tired, he doesn't. But I just think, a little more fitness and maybe being 176, 77, let's try that.
Yeah.
And see how you feel.
What height is he?
He's probably 6 foot, 6'1".
Yeah.
But he's just built like a brick shit house.
Yeah, because I'm 175, 178,
But
180.
if you look Chase with his shirt off, he looks like a football player.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, it seems.
It's not
to
like
be
he has
that
any
way.
body fat. He doesn't have any body fat. I
Yeah.
mean, in the off season, he can, like when he comes to boot camp, he's a little fat.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
You kind of want that in a way, though.
yeah, of course. I want him to, I want you 190 when you get here.
How would you compare, like, working with Lance? Like, if anyone hasn't read Lance's book, it's fucking unreal. Like, just to learn about his mentality and, like, the way that he approached training and, like, the way that he thought about winning and competition. Like, how do you compare, like, when you see a Lance Armstrong versus, like, a Chase or a Kenny, like, are those boys in the same ballpark, or you think that in terms of our sport, like, we do have a ways to go until we have, like, a Lance-type mentality?
Lance ruined me for everyone else.
That makes sense.
Ruined me. Like, because I'm like, what do you mean you're not, because he would do anything. I mean, it was like, if it was 20 degrees and we're riding 100 miles because no one else is doing this. It was like, if he had a broken or something was wrong with his bike, it was like, fuck, I'll beat those guys on a tricycle. I mean, it wasn't like he had that, like, no one could beat. Like, if I want to win, I'm going to win. Like, I don't care. And that's one thing with I know it's different in motocross, but with Chad, with Kenny, with all of them, they're fucking bikes.
I agree.
Fucking bikes. The way they set them up. I mean, it's like always the bike. I'm like, just fucking believe you can win. I don't care. Like, just get it to where you want and fucking quit fucking with it. Like, I get so. I mean, Chase is probably gonna rail me for this, but and Kenny and Chase. It's not just Chase.
But you know what? Good on you for fucking saying it.
Because I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? Like, I don't get it.
They don't want to hear it, and there's a lot of people around them that won't say it. And it's like you're coming from. I'm gonna fully defend your perspective here. I went off on this on the last podcast actually. Like, Cooper Webb is never the fastest. So the last guy that did the podcast, Clinton Fowler, he does all the statistics. He built this gnarly database, right?
Yeah.
So he knows what position. Every single lap of Chase's fucking career is in this guy's database.
Yeah.
And he knows what position he ran at the first turn, like literally every stat, right? So anyway, I basically said the same shit. I was like, I fucking love Cooper Webb because he's never the fastest guy. And he's won 2 championships. 2. And he's always winning races. The year he won his championship, he won the most races. Like, he is a dude that can win. And it's never the fucking bike. And it's never he's the fastest. Like, he is a guy that understands that there is an art to winning that goes far beyond the scope of being the fastest guy on the best bike.
100%.
But the problem is there's this whole fucking culture of motocross and supercross athletes where they've watched Ricky Carmichael win as the fastest. They watched James Stewart win as the fastest. When Chad won his title in 2024, he was the fastest. So we've had this, like, the fastest guy wins. And if you're not the fastest on any given day, why?
Yeah, the bike.
It's my fucking bike.
I know.
So you've got this
Trust
guy
me.
that's on the start line
Yeah.
that has, and so I've said all this, had me fucking rant.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to Clinton Fowler, I was like, how many times has Cooper been the fastest in his career?
Yeah.
So you got a guy, he's won the second most amount of races this year, and he was the fastest once. And it was one of the first time in his career that he was the fastest in practice, won his heat race, and was the fastest in the main event, won the main event. One time.
Mm-hmm.
In his entire career, 2-time fucking champion. So it's like, something's lost here. Like, if we had fucking 5 of him on the line, how crazy would racing be?
Yeah, sure.
Because imagine 5 dudes that didn't give a fuck if their bike was perfect and didn't give a fuck if they were the fastest.
Yeah.
That would be insane.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was getting at with, like, the Lance thing. Like, you read his book, like, he did not give a fuck.
No, he's that type of guy. He'd go somewhere, just go, I'll tweak this bike a little bit and just go, okay, I can ride it. It wasn't like I have to have, the seat like 2 centimeters and the stem and the thing turned this way and that way. It was just, but that's, I can't talk shit like you can because I've never ridden a motorcycle so I don't
But
know.
also, I can't talk shit because I've never ridden it at their level.
Yeah,
In
so
the
I
same,
don't know
so
how.
we're both got to,
Yeah, but I just want all my guys to have the mentality like, okay, my bike's kind of good, I can win.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Like that's what I want. Like,
Well, the
no-
proof is that's why I bring up Cooper Webb,
yeah,
because he's the living example.
Yeah.
He's on the gate doing that.
hmm
And why more people haven't cottoned on to that.
yeah,
Like, you watch Seattle, where he beat Seattle.
yeah,
Chase was faster than him.
yeah. I know.
Didn't beat him.
No, and granted with Chase, I think Chase did have a lot of problems getting used to the KTM.
For sure.
I think it was a lot harder than he thought.
Yeah.
And we went through a lot of, during boot camp, it was just not fun because it was a new
His
bike.
mind
and,
was elsewhere almost.
well, he was just worried about it because he had all this pressure. I mean, look, he's a young kid. He had won this championship. He had all this pressure on him, new bike. And I just think part of it was mental. A lot of it was the bike. And and now I think he's finally getting it figured out like this last couple of weeks. Now I finally see him like never talking about it and like, okay, it's good. It's good. And it's fine now. But I don't know, the bike thing. It's just a weird. I've always seen it ever since Chad. Chad was the same way. He'd tinker with it all the time.
He might have been one of the worst.
Yeah. So, yeah. So that's one thing that I don't like. I say I can't really talk shit because I'm not riding that fast. I don't know the corner like what one little tiny click on the thing makes a difference. But I just want Chase and all those guys to go, okay, if the thing's totally off, I can still win. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, I can't win on this bike because it's, the suspension, like the rear is too high or whatever it is. But, they're all like, I mean, they're all like that. So,
Yeah, it's a culture. And
Yeah.
like, it's only been recently. And
yeah.
I'm in a weird position because I'd say Chase is a friend of mine.
Mhm.
Like, not close friend. We don't
Yeah.
talk every day, but I've got a lot of time for the guy, a lot of respect
Yeah.
for the guy. Anytime we see each other,
Mhm.
I'm always saying,
Yeah.
generally care about how he is doing.
Right. Yeah.
But then also my job to do this. I'm
Yeah.
like, fuck.
I know.
You
I know.
So
Yeah, me too.
I got to say how I see it, and I think it's literally just a culture. And it's like, if you look at who Chase looked up to growing up, it would have been Chad Reed, and it
Mhm.
would have been. And what do they say on the podium?
Yeah.
They're
The
like,
bike
the bike. So it's like, and then the other thing to think about when it comes to motocross and supercross is like, there's a whole team of people that their job is to get the bike better.
Yeah.
So it's
I
like,
know. Yeah.
if you took all those people away
Then
and
no
you
job.
took all those options away, then it's almost like paralysis by analysis.
Yeah.
So it's like, and they're not going away because the
Yeah.
suspension guy at KTM needs to keep his job, and this guy needs to keep his job. And so it's like, what about it? So there is like
Yeah.
it's quite a mess of things that need to come together.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of variables, and there's a lot of people pushing and pulling, and that I think that's where that mentality and for Chase, it's like the pressure of this and the new bike and it's like, cool, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Like there is a level of like mentality that you could have that would strip you of that pressure.
Mhm.
Because what is pressure?
Yeah.
Pressure's a story.
Yeah.
And you with the Joe Dispenza stuff,
Yeah.
it's like it's all a fucking
In a
story.
story.
It's
Yeah.
all a story.
Yeah. And Chase, but I think in the next 3 years, I think the whole switching the bike and Jet doing so well, and it's just a lot of little things that
Yeah. It's
went
for
on.
sure there.
And it's there. I mean, he hasn't lost his. This next couple of years, I think there's going to be some major battles with him and Jet. Because
I
just
hope
the
so.
last race, Chase was fastest lap. In the last race, he's been the fastest the last couple of races. So it's
But
there
again,
now.
we're just saying you don't even need to be the
No,
fastest.
and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So that's where that meant. I want him to get that mentality. We're like, okay, I don't have to be I can still, racecraft. I can still win. I'm in control, not the bike.
Yeah.
That's what I always tell Chase. I want you to feel like you're in control of the race, not the bike's in control of how you race.
Yeah.
Like you have to have that. Like I'm in control as the rider, not the bike. I can win on anything. It's like you have to have that, or else you go on the line with no confidence.
Yeah, and a guy like Lance,
It didn't
had that
matter.
in
No,
spades.
but don't get me wrong. Lance was very meticulous with his bike. I mean, he went in the wind tunnel. He wanted every advantage he could get. Every
Yeah, that makes
material.
sense.
Like the aero position and the eating and he was, but once he got out there, even in training, he was the same way. He just had this confidence where you just went, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It wrecked me. But I've seen it with the baseball guys like Justin Verlander and those guys I train, that Giancarlo, that they have that same mentality. It's like, it's just a different breed. They're a
Yeah.
different breed.
How is that cultivated? Are you born with that? Are you like, is there a way to build it over time?
I think you're kind of born that way. Like, I
Mm.
mean, like Lance and I have talked about this a lot. Like, I mean, as a kid, I was 10 years old running hill sprints at 10 at night. Just there's something wired in me. I don't know. It was, I grew up with an alcoholic dad, and I just run. I had 12 kids in my family,
Really?
and I was trying to get attention. And
You had 12 kids in your family?
yeah, I'm one of 12.
Fuck.
And so, and Lance, he had a rough upbringing with his parents, and he was very angry. And
Yeah.
we've talked about this. Like, okay, can you get someone with Lance's drive, or Kobe, or someone like that hasn't had something trauma or something fucked up in their childhood to have that kind of drive, where like at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
I will be at the gym at 1 a.m. Kobe'd be shooting baskets. When I worked with Derek Fisher, he was a basketball player for the Lakers. Kobe would come in once in a while and train, do the foundation stuff once in a while.
Oh, sick.
And he'd go at 1 a.m. sometimes and shoot baskets. Just, he outworked everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. Same with Lance. No one worked harder than him. Nobody. And, that's where, they have this something in, I don't know, is that, there's genetic, I'm sure,
Yeah.
or is it some trauma or something in your life where you get these freaks that have the talent and that just
That's what it is.
unparalleled, ability to work harder and just want it more than anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got
Michael Jordan, same thing.
Yeah, it's got to be this, because what we are is like, we're a blank canvas in terms of like your personal story and your personal history, right? In terms of like, so when you're born in the womb, you've had nothing happened to you. You've had no trauma. You've had no experiences. So like, you're just a genetic blank canvas, and you have potentiality within your genes. You have like a certain aptitude for like intelligence. You have certain fast twitch. You have slow twitch. You have, where you're going to be someone that is going to be obese because of how easy it is for you to put on weight with your metabolism. Like, so there's this blank slate there. And then that is mixed with the real world experiences, and like, who's your parents? Who were their friends? Who were their kids? What school did you go to? What area, what country were you born? Like, so it's like, it's almost like you have these two,
were you picked on as a kid? Anything.
and that is all, it's so out of your control. The blank canvas that you started with is out of your control. And then the place where you were born into, and that's nature versus nurture, like the nature is the DNA, and it's the way that you're born. And then the nurture is the environment that DNA was raised in. And you just end up with this like one of one unique paint color, if you were to mix two colors together.
It's like the perfect storm, like of everything. Like I call them Terminator eyes. I've seen it before. Like Lance, Justin Verlander, Kelly Slater, they walk in the gym,
just go dark.
It's just like, oh my, it's just like, Russell Westbrook, another basketball player. You just go,
right.
You just go, you watch him, he walks in and he's just like, I watched Russell once in a practice. A rookie was coming in, and Russell was already probably one of the best guys. And he came in eating like a 7-Eleven hot dog and like a Coke. 10 minutes late, Russell grabbed the fucking bag, threw it out the door, pushed the kid out of the door because you're fucking wrecking me. If you're not going to make me better, get the fuck out of here. Kicked him out of the gym, and that was it. And because that was like, he didn't have any tolerance for anyone that didn't want his intensity. He wanted everyone to rise to him.
Yeah.
And that's how Lance was. He didn't want, in Slater, you see him walk in and there's something, like you said, it's the perfect storm. And some people have 3/4 of it, but there's very few that have all of it. That something that just makes them, it's just special. It's just something in their eyes and in their DNA, like you said, in their nature, nurture. It's just the perfect storm. Like, Kobe, Michael Jordan, Justin, Lance. You can probably name. Has motocross had one? I don't know. I mean, Chase is pretty good mentally, and he's works hard, but you know, it's, you know, it's remain to be seen. He's, you know, he's still young. You know, can he just all of a sudden get this thing and just turn into this, you know, demigod and win 8 titles or Jet, you know. But I don't see, you know, even in Jet, he's very happy go. I don't see that fucking intense, you know, that like
demon
"Arr,"
eyes,
yeah, that demon, that like a Kobe. You know, you see Kobe talk, you see him work out, you see him do anything.
Dude, my favorite Kobe, it's not like necessarily a quote, but I guess story, like kind of myth around him was basically like he would get criticized for being a ball hog, and then he did some interview where he's like, why the fuck would I pass them the ball? I see what they do at practice.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Like, why would I fucking give? And that's his teammates. Like that. That's how ruthless.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying.
And that makes sense.
I know.
That makes
It does,
sense to me.
totally.
It's like, do I trust me to shoot the ball?
Yeah.
Who's been in here and shot 1,000 more reps than this fucking kid with the hot dog and the Coke?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not giving him the ball.
Yeah, I'd much rather have an athlete that I have to pull back and say, no, you fucking can't do more because they want to do more than I have to beg them to do something. You know, you'd rather, you know, like with Lance or you'd never see that. You'd have to go, okay, nah, you're not gonna go fucking throw in the pitching thing at 2 a.m. Like it's dumb.
Yeah.
You know, like so it's you know, but if you don't have the right. Again, the right, like Kobe, if he was to let him run amok, he might have just overtrained himself and just trashed himself.
Well, yeah, and there is that.
You have to have the smarts too, or good people around you to reel you in a little bit.
Yeah, and I think like for me, I think about it a lot, and because business is the same.
Yeah.
You know, like in a lot of ways, to be like if I looked at if I stripped down my program of like as silly as it sounds, like running this podcast,
Mhm.
it's like it's a business, it's this brand, it's got multiple people working for it, it's got one dude at the top of it that owns all of it, and it's like it's a team, right? And I'm hard on people that work for this team because I'm like, this is my intensity, this is my fucking level. Like,
Yep.
if you don't want to be here, yeah,
I
it's,
know
you know,
exactly what you mean.
it's
Trust
that
me.
it's that
Yeah.
same kind of intensity, and it's
Yeah.
like it's an athlete mindset and it's an athlete focus, you know. And it's like, I think, you know, you look at a guy like you said, Kenny's happiest he's ever been, and like with everything that he's been through, it's like winning isn't the thing that makes you the happiest in life.
No.
Like when you strip it back, you know,
No.
and I'm sure Lance could probably admit that at the time that he was winning
That'd
the
be
most,
selfish as hell.
he probably was like extremely unhappy and like in a fucking probably a pretty shit spot. But it's like there is a point of diminishing returns in everything where it's like you need this crazy level of ego to achieve a certain goal, or like to have a belief and to have the focus and to be selfish, you know, like even in my position, like there's so many times where I'm like insanely selfish.
Oh, me too.
Where it's like, even my wife the other day, it was Saturday, and I was texting, and I'm
Yeah.
sitting there, we're at food, and she's like, got up, and I'm like, hey, I'm not apologizing for this. Like this is, I can't be
preaching to the
sorry.
choir.
This is literally how this has to go, and I'm sorry, but this is
Oh my God.
this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But it's like you can't. You need to carry that intensity in aspects of your life for a certain time period. But you also need to know when.
That's my problem.
To not.
I don't know when not to. That's where.
I think that's everyone's problem.
Yeah, I was able to work. You know, I still can. You know, wake up. I train 5 a.m. I train till like 7 at night, and I have. And then my younger trainers just go, "How the fuck do you do this?" Like, I'm like, "What do you mean you don't want to work on Saturday? So what the fuck, you know, like what's wrong with you?"
Yeah.
You know, but that's what you're talking about, that intensity where I just kind of was born with that, and I expect other people to kind of have that. When they don't, I get like a little irritated.
It's confusing.
It's like, what do you mean you don't want to go, you know, do this?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that, like I said, it's that perfect storm of, you know, of people, and you know, we'll see what happens with motocross. You know, if we get that one guy that just has that Kobe mentality.
Well, I think Carmichael did.
Yeah, I see. I was before my. I mean, I knew about him, and you know, Lance actually knew him a little bit, and but I didn't see him in his day.
Well, so fun fact, Ricky Carmichael has won more second motos than anybody else has won combined.
Yeah. Wow.
So like that tells you what kind of dog
Fitness
he
he
is.
was. Yeah.
Like that's a motherfucking
Mhm.
dog that
Mhm.
wants to win everything.
Mhm.
So I think the sport, but he wasn't like a physical specimen.
Yeah.
You know, he was like when he had the type of body that would just put on massive amounts of weight,
Yeah.
pretty unathletic in, you know, like a box jump and, you know,
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
traditional. So like he wouldn't be the athlete. But in terms of mindset, like nobody. Like I'll put him up against like a
Anyone.
Kelly Slater,
Yeah.
a
Anyway.
Lance Armstrong. Like
Yeah.
he had that dog,
Terminator.
that
Right?
drive, that
Yeah.
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 So I think the sport, and I mean, he was the reason the sport changed.
Yeah.
You know,
He changed training, right?
yeah, he bought it in. You
Yeah.
know?
Well, talking to Johnny O, he trained pretty hard too.
Yeah.
I talked to him a little bit. I've gotten to know him.
Yeah, back before. Well, he was Ricky's first trainer.
Yeah. I really like him. He's a good guy.
Yeah, so he's working with the Lawrences now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think Ricky was one of the guys in our sport that changed it.
Mhm.
And I think, you know, like Dunge,
Yeah.
RV,
Yeah.
you know, and I think they're again, but just not that crazy freak athlete.
No.
Like
Not yet.
I still don't think we've seen like
No.
the full package.
Yeah. Every
That just ticks
that's Terminator.
Yeah, that just fully
Yeah.
ticks the boxes.
Yeah. That just everything that's out there. Yeah.
But do you think that other sports, like particularly like stick and ball or football or like more traditional sports, do you think that the mindset type stuff comes easier because there's just like more of a heritage of people to kind of like pass that knowledge on?
No, like you said, I think it's genetic. Like some people just have that,
No
matter what sport.
Because like you
they're
said
in.
at 10.
No matter what sport you're in, it's just some genetic. Like he said, like there's so many. You start out with this in the womb, and then all of a sudden it's how your parents treated you, how your friends treated you, how trauma, like whatever. There's so many, and I think like those people like Kobe and them had these perfect, whatever the mix was, just to be how they are.
Yeah. And it's like there's so much stuff that's out of your control that shapes you. Like even like I had parents that stayed together. I had like a good family. We grew up in like a pretty shitty area. And one of my most formative parts of my life was having a friend whose dad was like a gnarly drug dealer.
Oh, yeah,
So, like literally best friend.
Yeah.
And, you know, I came from like a real normal, like really good family. And then I basically like lived with this guy and he lived with us, where his dad was like in and out of jail, fucking crazy money coming in and out, crazy drugs, crazy like anger, aggression, violence, like, and that shit was like one of the most formative parts of my life. And it fully changed me in a lot of ways, and in a lot like good ways too, you know, like just seeing different things. But like that's even something that's so out of my parents' control.
Yeah.
Like who you even be friends with at school.
Yeah.
I was just a schoolmate.
Well, like, my older, there's 12 kids in my family. The older kids, the top 7 or 8, grew up in this fairy tale. My dad was work all day. And, when I was 9, 8, 7, 6, that's when we moved to Santa Barbara. He didn't work. He became an alcoholic, and it just, the wheels fell off. And I became like the parent to my younger kids.
So you were like kind of in the middle.
I was 10th.
Okay.
So there's like the 2 ones below me, and me kind of got the tougher end of the stick.
How much older than you is your oldest sibling?
I'm 58. She's like 80 or something like that. Yeah.
That's a trip.
I know. It's weird. My mom had kids with her kids. Like my mom was having babies with her.
While she was being a grandma.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm back to the thing. Like a perfect example for me is I'm going to get railed for this too, but I don't see that same intensity in LeBron as I do Kobe.
Yeah.
The same will to win, and like I'm going to win at any cost, and don't get me wrong, he's an incredible athlete and freak.
Yeah.
But that it thing we're talking about, I don't see it.
Yeah.
Like a Kobe or a Kelly Slater or a Lance.
Yeah.
Where I just don't see the same mentality. It's more about me and about what he wants.
About everything that comes with being the basketball.
Yeah, I'm
player
the
and
king.
being the king.
Kobe's not going to call him the king, or it's like, Black Mamba. That's a little different. That's like I'm just a fucking.
I'm death, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so there's like we could discuss this for 5 hours. It's just there's what's the variable?
Yeah.
I don't know. What's the magic variable? Like, my kids, growing up,
It's a great life.
like
in Santa Barbara.
when my kids were young, I'm like, what do you mean you don't want to go to the gym at 10 years old? Like, I just expected them to be like I was.
Yeah.
And my wife kept going, they're not you.
Yeah.
Stop. They're not fucking you. And, they both kids turned out to be great, but it's just what caused me to be like, me and want to work like that and at all costs and that's what I keep searching for, like what, and, but you can't make that happen.
No.
But, all those guys, Chase, Levi, Tom, they all work so fucking hard. They're all great, but, like, can you make them be like that? Like, you can't.
Yeah.
It's possible.
And you look at, like, what it costs Lance. You know what I mean? Like, that they're also, like, do you want to be that guy?
Well, Kobe was the same way. I mean, he was, I mean, you have to be selfish.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
You have to be, it's like, you can't be balanced and be like that. There's no balance.
I wonder if there's a way, though, where you can, like, just hack that in a sense, because it's like, like, you have enough data. Like, you can look at a Lance and you can look at and it's like a thing that you can just switch on and off. Because, Lance couldn't switch it off.
No.
And it's like the drugs, the steroids, the lying about it, the way that he got in deep to perform. And granted, everyone was doing it.
Yeah, but still.
And it's like the tour itself, I would get so pissed off when the Lance thing came out, because I'm like, the fuck do you want him to do? You make the tour harder and harder and harder and harder every year. It's like the body is the fucking same.
Yeah.
So you want to keep making this race the gnarliest. Like, that's the thing, is this is the gnarliest race in the world. Well, guess what? The human body has a limit. Yeah. And now these guys have gone. These guys found it, and then they said, "Well, we need more." But anyway,
and that's one where I really respect. I mean, I never knew. He never talked to me about that.
Really?
Never. Not until it was over, but never.
Yeah, once it was.
No, and people think, oh, he was like drug. He drugged, like, took EPO a little bit and some stuff, like literally a couple months before the tour. Like, it wasn't like every time he worked out he took steroids or anything like that. It was, but I really respected him because I was almost, I mean, I suspected, of course, but just because the rumors and
well, you kind of, and everyone.
And I was on the inside,
yeah,
the very inside, and I mean, he was very respectful. I never, I mean, Lance did so much for my career, and I mean, we're good friends, and I have nothing but good things to say about him. Of course, did he do some shitty things? Yeah. But to me, I mean, he's been incredible. Like, he helped me. He's the one that made me go to LA. He's the one that gave me my first, big high-end CEOs and basketball players and baseball players. And, at that time, I trained Lance Armstrong. Okay, yeah, sign me up.
Yeah,
and back then, it was like a meal ticket. It was like the golden ticket.
Yeah.
And I traveled with them for, every other month. I used to go to Austin, and my kids were friends, and we were going to Aspen, and so it was, he was great to me, and I think, not to stick up for him, but just that he was like Jesus. We'd go into like the casino, and we'd go to Vegas or when he had a talk or something. It was just like the sea would part.
He was one of the most famous people in the world.
God, you have no idea. It was wild to be in that whole. I was right in the middle of that whole thing. And to see that was wild, to watch that whole thing happen.
We can't do a race like the GYPSY 500 or really anything dirt bike related without first making an online pit stop at motorsport.com. On our YZ250 project build, we went hard in the paint for everything from our Pro Circuit pipe and silencer to our boys and reeds and everything in between. The same goes when we're getting ready to take on a huge challenge like World Vets last year at Glen Helen, and the GYPSY 500 is no different. To prep for this insane event, we need to kit out our 4 Stark Vargs with moose tubes, hand guards, and some super soft grips, as well as our sag tool and more. To get your bike or body ready to race or ride in 2024, motorsport.com should be your first destination. They have the biggest range, the best deals, and no one has more reliable shipping or better customer service. Motorsport makes it possible for us to make our crazy ideas come to life, and they can make it happen for you too. Head to motorsport.com to kickstart your riding season. Yeah, I definitely, I feel like he got made a scapegoat.
Oh,
Like
100%.
when the way that I looked at that, and I mean, I was like fairly young, like I was probably in my early 20s.
Yeah.
But I like read all his books. And,
Yeah.
like I knew about Lance
Yeah, yeah.
Armstrong, you know.
Yeah.
And I met him at Austin at MotoGP once,
Mhm.
and like super nice dude.
Yeah.
But the whole time I was watching that, I was like, why is this one dude
Hmm.
like the focal point? Like obviously he was
'Cause
the
he's
most
winning.
famous. He was the one that was winning. But it's like that almost to me was like, okay, you've got like a systemic problem
Mhm.
here.
Yeah.
Like this sport is sick.
Oh, it is. It's
Not
like track
just
and
this
field.
one guy.
It's everyone.
You know, like so it almost seemed to me like they wanted to go like, all right, let's chop his head off, and now the sport's cleaned. We got rid of the cheater. We got rid of the bad guy. It's like
No.
the UCI or whoever the fuck, you know, the tour, like that whole thing. Okay, we've got a huge problem. And like I think the onus should have been more on the sport to come forward and be like, hey,
Yeah, and drugs.
it's not just Lance, it's kind of everyone, and like we've got a problem. We need to fix it. Maybe we should also think about how hard the fucking Tour de France
Yeah,
is,
and
right?
steroids
You know?
in sports is a weird. I mean, I told you I worked at a gym when I was really young, and
This is a great story. You
and
should
I
tell
used to
that
give.
story.
I mean, when I was 12, 13, I worked at. It's called Santa Barbra Gym. It was all the famous.
How did you get into that though?
When I was playing volleyball at the time, that's was my first love, volleyball. And
And now it makes
my
sense why you
friend,
said you're too
yeah,
short for
my
that.
friend was he worked at the gym and he got me a job there on the weekends because I was a little gym rat. I just loved the gym and like all the people, and I would just see. I worked at the front desk, and all the power lifters. After a while, they just gave me an orange and a syringe and said, "Hey, practice that." I just pushed in the syringe, and before I knew it, I was in the back giving all the guys drugs. Like literally shooting them up with, Parabol and testosterone, whatever, whatever. You know, and it was such a denial drug. Like I would shoot someone up, and then someone would go, "Oh, you're on drugs," and the guy would almost punch him out. Like, no, what are you fucking talking about? I'm not on drugs. It's so weird to watch that. It's like the weirdest thing. It's like the OJ didn't kill his wife.
Yeah.
It was just like,
Yeah,
dude, I just shot you up. What
he
the fuck?
did.
You're like,
yeah.
you're fucking on drugs. Why are you acting like this? It was weird to watch. It was bizarre, and so there's a whole weird. You almost talk yourself like you're not doing it. It's a weird culture, and these guys. But I learned. I mean, get me wrong. I learned so much working at that. I mean, because I just used to. All the Russian guys would come in, and I just watched what they did in their rep ranges, and just it was just Granted, they were on drugs, but it didn't matter. I mean, it was just the way they trained, and they were going to the Olympics and stuff. This wasn't just like I want to get big. I'm a meathead. This was guys. I want to deadlift. And clean and jerk, 1,000 pounds at the Olympics.
Yeah.
And so it was. I had just a incredible, physiological experience watching how these guys trained, and
so young.
all day long. Yeah, I was young, and I was. That's how I was into it at a really young age. I just like, okay, why are they doing 5s today and not 10s? And why, And I'd ask them. I was like the little curious George. I go, why are you guys doing 6 sets of 1 today? Like, what you guys did 5? And he'd explain it to me. Like, well. Every once in a while you got to go to 90% of max, and then I started reading. They'd give me books, and I'd start reading about it. And
did you ever read Arnold's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding?
yeah, but I wasn't into bodybuilding. I wanted strength. I wanted like, okay, how can I didn't and that's where they explained to me like, okay, like if you keep the rep ranges in those, and for big athletes, like everyone thinks if I lift heavy, I'm going to get big. If you keep the reps under 3 or 4, 5. You're not going to get big. You're just going to get strong. Yeah. If you want hypertrophy, you go in the 10 rep range. And people go, I can't lift heavy. I'm going to get big. I'm like, Chase, fucking, if you ask me that one more time, I'm going to shoot you. No, you're not going to get big doing 3 reps. It's like, it's nervous system. You're not, you're not going to put on a lot of weight. If I said, okay, go do 10 reps real slow, yeah, you're going to blow up like a balloon. So it's just, it's just these misnomers that people don't understand, with physiology and how the body works. But watching these guys, because some of these guys wanted to go into the, I saw some guys that were 5'4", 140 that could lift like crazy weights, and they were like my size. And they go, what do you mean? I never go over 3 reps ever. That's why I'm not big. If I wanted to get big, I could. So there's the whole vision. You don't have to, get big and and lift weights. You know, it's not. There's a way.
Yeah,
Like
it's not a direct
like
correlation.
motocross people don't want to be. You don't have to be big. You don't have to be like a runner either.
Yeah.
There's a fine line. Like I said, like Kenny Chase is probably a little on the bigger side for a motocross guy, but maybe the new breed, no. You know, he's just a tank.
Yeah, but when you look at the crashes that he's had over the last couple of years,
Exactly.
he
So
really
it's give
hasn't
and
missed
take.
races.
No,
I'd
and
want that.
you know, and there's always, you know, it's like Jet and Chase. They're built kind of differently. Jet's a little more skinny, or Levi. They're skinny, sinewy, kind of. And then there's, you know, Chase and Tomac that are more, you know, grinders.
Yeah.
You know, and the same in triathlon. You got the guy that's winning everything, and then you get another guy that's third. That's like looks like, you know, a roadmap with veins in his stomach, and so it's not everybody is the same. It's just how your body is. Everyone's athletic. I don't think, you know, Chase's build makes him. I think, like you said, like Chase has always told me, like, I can't fucking ride the bike like I want to. I can't put the power into the front or the, you know, the bike. I only can ride it like 80% of how I want it because he's so fucking strong. So that's what I'm saying. If we ever got a bike that could handle his power, you know, I mean, he'd just be gone.
Yeah.
So, and that's what we're chasing, you know. So, and because he knows in his head what he can do.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's frustrating for him with the bike right now, the KTM, like he's had, is like, I can't ride the bike like I want to.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
yes, he will, but right now
Takes a long time.
he's getting there, really getting there fast. But you know, it's frustrating to go to a race like the first, you know, where you just can't ride the bike or trust it like you want it to.
Yeah. Do you think to go back to like the Lance and the steroids and the sport in general, like, do you think there's an acceptable level that guys should be able to take certain things? Or
That's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
I mean, once you allow, I mean, part of me goes, just fucking let them be pharmacies. Like if they want to fucking take whatever. I mean, it's a sport. It's entertainment.
Yeah.
Like, who cares what they do? Like, let them be freaks, you know?
Yeah.
Whoever has the best drugs, that's part of it. Like, let them
Yeah.
go. But then, you know, to the kids and, you know, and the privateer or whoever, you know, the people that can't afford it, it's not a fair playing field. So I can't, you know, you can't, you know, if you, like, what about a motocross guy that gets testicular cancer and produces no testosterone? Is it okay for them to take it to get to normal levels?
Yeah, well, I think that was the argument, and like the UFC did it for a long time, where they allowed TRT. But
they did?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
But then you had guys that would they'd go to do their testing. So they'd come in to like write down, okay, this is your natural level, and then natural level's like fucking 1600.
Yeah,
like, well, bro, I'm genetic freak, you know.
No,
like,
but I saw Lance's levels at the tour. You know, he was for the most tested guy, and I mean, they would be so fucking low.
really
Like 150, 200. I mean, because you're so trashed.
depleted. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you're training that hard, when you're riding 600-700 miles a week, 500, I mean, you're not going to be. It's not pretty, like, you know, with your hormones.
Well, I got like a proper adrenal fatigue like a couple years after I started doing jiu-jitsu properly. And I was training like 2 times a day, 6 days a week, and just fucking fighting. Like just fighting that.
Well, you were going intensity every single day.
Every single day.
Yeah, so you ride.
And then the mental load that comes with it, like just anxiety around different competition, you know what I mean? Like I think that's probably like a underappreciated factor as well, is like just the draw that like performance anxiety can take on a person, or just like dealing with competition, just like dealing with 17-round championship, you know, like to stay mentally in it. Like there's a lot of calories that get burnt on that.
Well, I think that's what got Chase a lot this last year, just the mental. I always tell him, I go, Chase, like, look what you've gone through. You won the championship. You got like pretty sick after the you know, right before the outdoors last year, and then going on to a new team and the pressure of the team and all these people on you about stuff and like making all this money, and I mean it's those variables.
It's a lot, yeah. And
then getting used to the bike and everyone writing that you're not liking the bike, and like it was just a nightmare.
Yeah.
And I mean, how much stress can you take? I mean, it takes a toll. And now, just these last 3 weeks, I see, okay, it's finally coming back. Yeah. I think he's gonna have a good outdoor. I see just the old Chase where he's just a little more. He's getting used to everything. And it was just a big, you know, Jet doing so well and all the pressure of the Jet versus him, and then seeing all the tension Jet's getting. It's just, there's a lot that just went on, and I think he's going to rebound now and just be like a different person the next year.
Does like how we talk about the Joe Dispenza stuff, like
Mhm.
when we spoke on the phone the other
Yeah.
day, like how much did that change your life, and like how much do you think that these guys or just sports guys in general like are willing to even dive into that? Because
Yeah.
it's quite radical perspective shift that you can have when you kind of like, I guess,
Yeah.
take on some new mental philosophies or like foundations in a way, but like
No, it's game changer. Well, I met Joe during COVID.
yeah.
Well, Joe Dispenza, I don't even know. He's a mindfulness. What would you call him? Like a
Well, yeah, I mean, so he's a New York Times bestseller.
Yeah.
He's written a bunch of books, and he's very like meditation focused, but he's very neural, like from a real neuroscience perspective, and he's got like a quantum mechanics.
Well, it's all
angle
science.
that
It's
comes to
science
it.
based too.
Yeah.
It's not like woo woo. It's
Yeah.
more science based. So anyway, he came in during COVID, and I just watched him work out, and like he was a friend of a friend, and I just go, I go, Joe, we need to do some. So we just started working, and I mean, like I said, at the same time, I had another headspace. There was a time in my life where I was in LA. I was working like you talk, like you just were.
You're just on.
Yeah, on all the time. My wife I'd be at restaurants and basketball players would text me, like, what should I eat? My wife's like, are you fucking going to answer that? Like when we're eating dinner with the family, and so it's just kind of, and
Well, who's gonna pay for the food, huh?
yeah, so Joe just got, I mean, as we got to know each other, and we're really close friends now, he just goes, you got to come to one of my week longs. I go, okay. I kept putting it off, and then I went, oh, fuck, I get this now.
Mm.
It was just such a shift in, like, oh, God, I'm not present. I'm never, I just don't, I'm in a program, he calls it.
Yeah.
Like, I was just doing the same thing, waking up, doing the same thing with the same foods, seeing the same clients. It's just like, I was just like,
thinking the same thoughts at
yeah,
the same time.
and like all of a sudden,
same beliefs.
And the first thing he said, I mean, before I went, he goes, I just want you one day to just think about everything you're doing, where you're going. I was like, oh shit, and I went there, and it was just the meditation. I mean, at first I had a hard time just doing it for 10 minutes, and by the last day we did 6 hours straight, and it felt like an hour. And now I rarely miss a day meditating.
Okay.
Very rarely. At least maybe once every 2 months I'll miss.
Really?
No matter whether it's 10 minutes, I go an hour a lot, but at the end of the day, I just sit in
It's
this
kind of the
room
same thing though, right? Like if you get to the right place, it sort of doesn't matter how much
Yeah,
time
and it's
it
just,
takes.
manifesting stuff, rehearsing stuff I want to, want to do, and just like I just okay, like what did I do good that day that I really liked? How did I treat people? How did I, see this client, or what would I change if I could change this day, like today? Like, oh fuck, I was an asshole. Like I was on my phone talking to this person, didn't even really hear what they were saying, which I do a lot, just little things like that. And then I just feel, it's changed my whole, I'm a lot more centered. I'm a lot, more personal with people. And I realize when I'm not paying attention to people and I'm not present, I'm just thinking about what I have to talk to Chase in, 10 minutes while I didn't even hear what this person was saying. I pretended like I was. So there's little things like it just made me aware of a lot of stuff. And it's funny because Joe told me at the last one, like Griffin, a lot of the top surfers were there.
Yeah, so I heard that Griff did a week-long.
Yeah, he told me. He said, and Joe behind the scenes sees a lot of really big athletes and golfers, and I mean, it's just, and yeah, I mean, I'm trying. I mean, I don't want to. Chase he knows Joe very well. He's worked out with Joe many times.
Huh.
And Joe's talk, he's done some of Joe's stuff. Like has he bought in completely? No.
Yeah.
Which I'd like him to. Like I think it would help him, just the rehearsal alone of learning, Joe always says like you rehearse riding a moto, it's almost like you wrote it.
Yeah.
Like Levi, I go, Levi, you promise me, like you're hurt, you can't ride for a couple days, 3 or 4 days, because he hurt his ribs in Nashville where he got ran over.
Yeah.
He's gonna be able to race. He's riding again, but I'm like, just 15 minutes at night.
Just do motos.
Just breathe, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Get in a state and just imagine riding your motos.
Yeah.
Like exactly feel what the gas smells like, what the dirt looks like, and then what Joe always says is like, okay, Levi, imagine like after you won those 2 races. Remember when he won the
Seattle.
Triple Crown and the
Yeah.
Triple Crown.
Yeah.
I'm like, what did that feel like after that? Riding and what did that feel like inside?
Yeah, cultivate that
Like,
emotion.
what did it feel like inside? Bring it up right now. Okay, let it go. Bring it up again. Let it go. Okay, when you go to the practice, bring that feeling up again. And Joe taught me that. Joe talks to Chase about that all the time. Like, what when you rode your best and you felt, what did it feel like? I mean, everything. Like, what did it feel like inside to feel that confident? Be able to bring that up every single time you go out on that track. Because if you're thinking, because once you do that and you know that feeling and you've rehearsed, don't think.
Yeah.
When you're on that, he goes, peak performance happens at like a 6 arousal level, not at a 10.
Yeah.
It's not, if you're overstimulated, things are going to be narrow. He goes, when you're like, baseball players always tell me, like, when they're on, or a pitcher, the strike zone looks this big. It's big and wide, and and when you're thinking, you're just narrow, and you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
So I think the mental part of motocross has not been tapped into yet.
Yeah.
I think that that part of getting that mental, like, skills, it's like a skill of lifting or riding, and I don't think anyone's tapped into that yet. That whole where they're that mentally tough.
Yeah.
Cooper's kind of that way, just naturally, probably.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Is like, I think that there's probably guys that naturally have it.
Yes.
But they don't know that.
They don't know it.
And they couldn't tell you why.
No.
It's like purely this gift that they were given.
Yeah.
But like, for me in my life, like, it's funny. So that I started reading Becoming Supernatural.
Yeah.
Like mid 2019.
Yeah.
2019.
Yeah.
And then I read it and I was like, okay, I like that's cool. And it kind of, I was like, what else could I read? Like, kind of in that vein. I didn't want to read another Joe Dispenza book, like, back to back. So then I got Sam Harris Waking Up.
Yep.
And that was the book that, like, fully changed my life.
Yeah.
Like, complete.
Yeah, I read that too. Yeah.
Oh, have you read that as
Yeah.
well? Yeah. So I would say, like, that's if you're like the Joe Dispenza method every day, I'm the Sam Harris method every day. And it's like, I've done now thousands of meditation. I've got like fucking 1,000, I don't know, like hours and hours and hours.
Do you know when you're in like that theta brain wavelength? Do you know when you're into that? So interesting, which I think could be a huge. Joe and some people at Stanford, they're coming up with this. There's an app on a phone, right, where you put this thing on your head, and it'll tell you when you're in theta wave. So like, and that's where peak performance happens.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and everyone gets into that differently. So if you could teach an athlete to be able to just bring that to that wavelength before they get on the line or putt or shoot, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So when that comes out and people have that ability to, like, okay, I can get in that, where you're not thinking, you're just in a totally different.
Well, it's like, to use like a Sam Harris terminology. It's like, there's no self.
No, exactly. Everything's big and everything's, you're in flow state.
Yeah, and there is like this. It's like, I think one of the most easiest and fundamental, like, if you can see it like this, is there is consciousness, and that's like got to be as far as like physical experience. If you really look at your experience and break down from like a first person perspective, like what's the furthest I can take this?
Yeah.
Where it stops is consciousness.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
No.
There's no further.
No.
Like, if that's the universe, if you look at your mind and your brain and your, like, who you are as like a universe of like an internal, like the mind, right? The earth is like the you, the self, like me, I, my.
Yeah.
That's the center of the universe. And the furthest reach of the universe that you get to, all that's out there is consciousness.
Yep.
In the same way that there's no stars, there's no, you know what I mean? Like, as you get past all that shit and it's space. That's essentially the exact same thing that's happening in the human brain.
Yeah.
Is if you strip away everything, if you strip away, I'm Peter, I'm a trainer, I'm this, I was born here, then what you're left with is like, you're just a conscious experience.
That's what Joe says. All the magic happens in the unknown.
And that's what it is, right? Because like, that's actually what you are. Like, that's the most stripped back version of you. And I think there's no doubt there's no negative self-talk.
No.
There's no positive self-talk. There's like it's
Nothing.
nothing. Like you're existing, and you're going to. You have all, and I think Joe says this. It's like there's 5% of like the conscious brain,
Yeah.
95%
Yeah.
unconscious, and it's like what that is. Everything that's happening it's going to happen. Like your heart will breathe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your heart will beat. Your lungs will breathe. When you're walking, you take a step. Like there's so much of what you do is unconscious.
Yeah.
And it's like just knowing and writing. Like a writer, I think when you do like athletes especially because they spend so much time like in and out of this zone purely based on like the experience that they've got like doing their sport
Yeah.
or training or whatever, right? You can like fully reverse engineer this
Yeah.
in your life and you go like, yeah, when I came into that corner and the front end went, I immediately corrected
Yeah.
before I even thought about it.
Yeah.
So like there's this evidence that's
yeah.
leaked all
For sure.
through your life
You don't have to think.
that
Yeah.
you don't have to
No.
think,
No.
you know?
And that's what happens when when Chase gets in trouble. It's when he starts thinking too much.
Yeah.
And I would, it's funny because I called.
But that's
Chase.
everybody.
Yeah, I call Chase every night before before he races. And I go, okay, I put it in the field. The quantum field.
Yeah,
I go,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
because all my meditation, I'll imagine Chase. And he's not quite there yet. Like knowing what all that is. Like
Yeah.
there's a whole nother quantum field out there that's everything's connected. And everything's
Well, there's like this weird. It's fun. Like I'd love to talk to like a Joe Dispenza or a Sam Harris with like where I'm at in like my
right
whatever
journey.
But it's like, what is possibility?
Yeah.
Like that is I guess that's what Joey D would call like the field is like there is possible like this room here that we're sitting in was in my mind before it was here.
Yeah. Well, you manifested it.
And it's a possibility before it's reality.
Yeah.
And it's like so much of your life is out in this ether of what you want, what you fear, what you fucking strive for. Like, so there is a lot out there, and the things that end up happening in your life often come from there, good or bad.
Oh, yeah.
Good or bad.
For sure.
The things that you don't want to happen.
Yeah.
Are the things that you do want to, like, you've probably thought about them.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure. I've gone to probably 3 of Joe's week things now. And it's a skill. As you know, meditation's a skill, and it's not easy. At first I couldn't, and Joe's like, don't fucking worry if something's in it. Just let it happen.
Yeah.
So on the third one, they always talk about these mystic experiences, like where like at these things, people I would see their eye and they just start screaming, like, and I'm like, fuck. Is that fake? That's fucking Joe. You pay people to come do that. Like, there's no way that's real. I used to give them so much shit. I'm like, that's not real. Like, you're paying people to do that. But one of my meditations that started to happen to me, like I saw like fire and like I'm like, and I'm so pissed about it because I got scared and I can't.
You pull yourself back from it.
Pull myself, and I'm like, and Joe goes that, he goes, it happens Joe can do it all the, it's not all the time, but it's real, and I felt it, and I wimped out, and I got scared, and it was like this fire, and I felt myself going like that, like just, and I should have just like let it happen.
That's where you ever done drugs? Like,
no.
Yeah. See, that's where there's a link.
I wanted to try like psychedelics.
You should.
Yeah, but I haven't. But I'm not against it. But I felt myself going like this, and I saw like I can't even explain. It was like drag fire, like weird. And I just I pulled myself back. And I was so pissed off at myself.
But honestly, that's where like if you do a psychedelic, there's a way that I think it teaches you to like go past that point. It's like because it's very obvious. You're like, oh, this is psilocybin.
Yeah,
that is like and you've already like you've taken the psilocybin. You're like you've kind of bought into that experience. Yeah. So it's like very easy, but it's the same shit as like in a meditate. Yeah. Like I've had. One of the first like
it probably puts you in that brave way. I mean, in that
it
probably does.
Yeah, I think it's something like you just like I had a 2019. It was one of the.
Have you tried ketamine?
No.
Yeah.
Have you done that?
No, but I have some people that have and same type of things. I think it's the same.
Yeah.
Similar path.
Yeah, I think they all kind of get you to that similar place
Yeah.
where you like have to let go of like
Yeah.
that sense of self, because
Yeah.
like the sense of self is what you bought yourself back.
Yeah.
So there is that
Right.
sense of self that would have been lost if you didn't bring it back, you
I
know.
know.
So I think that's where it like how it applies.
Yeah.
And it's like that experience can kind of help. But there was probably one of the experiences I had that helped me like more go all
Do you have to
way
have someone
in.
there to watch you in case you like freak
No.
out? No, you don't?
Just depends on what you do.
Yeah.
Like you definitely can. Like I think for people that have never done, like at your age doing something like that for the first time, like I'd sit there with you, put some music on,
Yeah,
like,
just
sit
see
and
what
read,
happens.
sit and read a
Yeah.
book, and you do
Watch
your
it,
thing,
yeah.
and you know what I mean. If you need a chat, like
Yeah.
"Oh, this,
Well, I
this-
heard
this
it helps,
is how it's
helps
supposed
trauma,
to be,
and you know, there's a lot of good things about it.
for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had like an experience. It was just breathing, just
Right.
like doing, because in the first part of meditation, like for the people that say like they can't meditate, it's like you just don't have enough concentration.
Right. Yeah.
So you get asked to follow the breath, but you can do it for one breath,
Mhm.
and then you start thinking,
Yeah.
and then 10 minutes later you're like, oh fuck, I haven't thought about the breath.
No.
So it's like
yeah.
you kind of can't do it until you've
Yeah.
like cultivated that. And it was like early days, and I was like just committed. I was like, all right, I'm fucking breathing. Like, I'm not gonna not do.
I'm not
this.
gonna not.
And it was like after I don't know how long, but it was like a full blown like MDMA.
Oh wow.
Like because MDMA is more like euphoric.
Yeah.
Like you have like you fucking love. Like
Yeah,
if there's the right music playing, it's like, oh my god, like this music is love. Like
Yeah.
this is what love feels like. Is what this sounds like. You know?
Right.
So you can get in that kind of space. And so yeah, just from breathing for less than 10 minutes,
Yeah.
you got that. So like it's extremely possible to have these
Yeah.
crazy experiences. I think once you strip back those like layers of self,
Yeah.
that
No, I would love to get these moto guys to do more of that. You know, I think they're open to it,
Yeah.
especially like Levi, and you know, I haven't talked to Tom about it, but I think, I think like I said, I think that's like the next, you know, place where they can teach themselves how to get into that flow state.
Yeah.
You know, just with a skill.
well, and it's just like, I mean, I use it in my life all the time.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like this voice, like that self, the me talking to myself in my own head.
Yeah.
Like, where is that necessary and where is that not? And when
Yeah.
you've spent enough time in a place, so like when you asked before if I get like the theta,
Yeah. Right.
I reckon it's like 7 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'll do between a 10 and 20-minute meditation, just depending on
Yeah. Same
like,
with me.
just whatever,
Yeah.
whatever's going on. But like 7 minutes, I
Yeah.
reckon you could set your fucking watch to it.
Oh yeah.
That's about the time.
But then you feel incredible after.
and I get 3 minutes if it's 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I get 3 minutes of being completely
Yeah.
like not even existing
Conscious. Yeah.
basically. And then the gong goes and it's like, all right, there's a minute left in the session, and then you spend a minute kind of coming
Yeah.
back to it. But it's like that same place, like the reason why you meditate in a sense is like to give yourself so much evidence that that place is real,
Yeah.
that then you can turn it on in a heartbeat in your real life.
Yeah.
So like the start line of a race.
Yeah.
There should
You can
be
just-
no fucking thoughts in your brain.
No, and that's
And
what
you
I'm
should
saying.
be
That's
you should have
that's-
cultivated the skill
yeah.
to where you can just sit there and purely react.
Yeah.
Because it's like if you think about, I would always think about the timing things take, and you're talking like milliseconds, right?
Oh.
But like the thought in between, if there's like a thing, like a stimulus that happens in the outside world, and then it is brought into consciousness, and then it's like has to be thought about because we think in natural language.
Mhm.
It's slow. Like to say a
Yeah.
sentence, to think that's fucking slow.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
can understand something
Yeah.
without thinking it. And so it's like, to me, I would always think it just adds this like this time in between action and reaction. And it's like in sport, it's all time.
Yeah. And just don't think.
Because you're gonna do it anyway.
No. Like I know. Sometimes I get irritated with shaping. Just you know, on the start, I'm like, you don't need to do that. You can just just get on there and like you already know how to do it. Just fucking
Because that's
let
like it's got to be a part of a story,
yeah.
and which I think to go more to Joe Dispenza, it's like program.
Yeah.
It's part of the program.
Yeah.
you know.
It is.
And
It's
that
the same. It's the program. Instead of going in the unknown.
And I'd call that a story.
Yeah.
You've told
True.
yourself that you're
Yeah.
that person, and
Yep.
this happened to me, so that's why I'm like this. And you know,
Yeah.
why do you like chocolate? The
Yeah.
taste of chocolate. Oh, well, because when we were a kid, my grandma used to bring us there, and it's like you have absolutely no fucking idea why you like chocolate.
Mhm.
There is just a thing that goes in your mouth, and there is taste buds that either give you like a pleasure response or like a negative response.
Yeah.
That's none of you has any idea why you like that.
No.
You know, over something else. If someone asks you vanilla or strawberry, you're just gonna tell me a story why you picked the thing that you did, but you don't fucking know.
No.
And if you know that, it makes a lot of shit way less complicated.
Yeah. Because I remember Joe worked with a couple of my pro baseball players. And I remember he was so great with just about the not thinking, about rehearsing, and your body knows how to do it. Just when you go on there, just let it happen. You know, just don't think.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, it's so powerful if you can get your mind to do that, especially for motocross. You know, when you're just, you know, because I'm sure everyone that's had a race where they were unconscious, where you remember you weren't.
They talk about it.
There was nothing happening out there.
Yeah.
You were just like the one time I did this 150-mile race I did where I set the record. It still stands. I just remember 20 minutes in, I felt like I was floating. Like nothing was around me. Everything was, it was slow, and my mind, and I'm like, it was just the weirdest. And to this day, I tried to bring it up a million times after that, but of course, I was thinking, and I could never bring that feeling up again of that. I mean, it was just one of these out of body experiences. And that's where I say, if people can learn, you know, if this stuff like this keeps coming on, where you can get the skill to bring yourself into that mindset, that flow state, then I mean, that's going to change the game for a lot of people.
Oh man, it's funny like that you talk about those like natural athletes that they can kind of do it without knowing that they even do it. So there's this guy Sam Hill. He's like one of the greatest mountain bike riders of all time. Right, downhill mountain.
Yeah,
and he was just a kid from Perth. From like just a normal regular family. No, nothing special.
Yeah.
No like gnarly mental coach. No one telling him. And he would walk the track, and he was so concentrated walking the track that then he would go home, he would stay in bed, and he would visualize the track, and he would time himself doing the run in his mind.
That's rehearsing.
And it would be the same fucking second.
Yeah. That's the power of rehearsing. That's what I've told all those guys that, you know, I try to, you guys, it doesn't take that much to just rehearse. Like, especially if they get the track, 2 days before the race, know that just mentally, Levi will play video games with it.
Yeah.
But I think it's probably even more powerful just to shut your eyes and just imagine exactly what it feels like to go over these rhythm sections and what you want to do, and just you'll have it already in there. I mean, Joe's told me a million times about people that have like a violinist who like breaks their hand and can't play for and they rehearse and they play better than they ever did ever. It's very powerful. I hope the mental game comes. I think it's obviously got way more in the last decade, where people have golf people have mental coaches, and it's gotten a lot bigger, but I just hope the skills come where people are able to just get in that flow state a lot easier.
Yeah. Well, I think it's probably there's probably like a connotation around it, like therapy, right?
Mm-hmm.
To where it's like, so like me and my wife haven't even been married a year yet, and we go to therapy.
Yeah.
So like from the outside, like if you said that to a person, they'd be like, "Oh, fucking hell! If you're going to marriage counseling, but you haven't even been married a year." It's like, no, it's like a tool. It's like
I go to therapy once a week.
Yeah, it's a tool, right? It's like that's like a secret weapon in our relationship,
right?
Like we do that that's like a massive benefit. But if you look at it from that outside perspective or like the old perspective is like, oh, you go to therapy,
you're a sign of weakness.
Broken.
Yeah, sign of weakness.
Yeah, I'm weak and I need to go to that. And I think that mental side, meditation, that whole thing it's like this symbol of weakness that I'm this broken thing that I need to be fixed. It's not this like powerful tool. Like I tell fucking everybody that's in a relationship, I'm like, dude,
Oh, go to therapy.
get a
Yeah.
fucking
I
therapist.
know.
Once a week,
Yeah.
have a call with a person that doesn't know anything about your life, has no connection, and you can just talk with like how you're feeling, what did they do that pissed you off? You got in a fight, let's break that down, or an argument, who's right, and both people can just get told, no, you're wrong. This is fucking game changer.
Yeah.
Like it's just literally a secret weapon, and you don't have to be broken first
No.
to do
No,
that.
it's
you know, and
no, you're smart if you do it.
and I think that that's the same thing.
I agree.
That is when you go to like
But
Joe Dispenza or
but think about the young kids these times. I mean, they're never off their phone. They're always stimulated. Always. Like, how would they ever get in like a parasympathetic state if they're never off their? Like, it drives me crazy. And again, they're gonna get mad at me for this. Every time I call him and Levi, Chase and Tom at night, they're on fucking Fortnite.
Yeah.
Every time. I'm like, dude, how do you guys ever shut your brains off? Like, you'd be much better off meditating, and getting in a really, let your nervous system shut down than you are playing these video games of shooting people.
yeah.
Like,
Oh man, I won't even have certain conversations at night.
no, because I can hear them fucking clicking the thing while I'm talking to them. And I'm like, you're playing Fortnite, huh? I'm like, then fucking don't call me. Like, let me call you later because you're not listening to me.
Yeah.
They're gonna laugh at this because I get on all the time, but it's like
That
I'm
shit's so real, dude. Like I fully, like if me and my wife have a conversation, I'm like, nah, that's too gnarly.
yeah,
Like too gnarly of a conversation. Stop. Like we can't talk about that. It's like past 9 o'clock.
yeah.
Nothing like
But
that. Good vibes only.
I just in
It's
the perfect
real, though.
world, they would like meditate and just get their brains to completely shut down before they went to sleep. They'd recover better.
Yeah.
But they're young. They just don't. It's a whole nother generation. Like we were bored when we were young. At least I'm older than you, but I was bored all the time. I had to go outside and just do whatever,
Yeah.
play with leaves or whatever.
Yeah.
These guys are just stuck in their phones and never off them.
Yeah.
And think about it. Has your brain ever turned off? Ever? No.
I wasn't.
No, not until they're all, until they fall asleep at 10:30 at night.
Yeah.
And they're probably on their phones all the way until they put their phones down to fall asleep.
Yeah.
So it's a it would take a lot of be smart to, do some, that I think all these kids could do with some sort of mindfulness.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, it's just a crazy game changer. Like my whole life changed as a result of it. And I think it's probably like it may be a risk. You sort of sound like a heretic in a sense.
I know
like,
people
when you
rail
talk
me
like
all
that,
the time.
Yeah, like it.
I mean, we'll probably get shit for this, on the
People do like it, to be honest. Like, I get a lot of messages of people that when we talk about this kind of stuff that it definitely helps. And I think that it's one of those things like when you invest in this type of stuff, like you see the benefits. But like the proof was in my life.
Oh, me too.
You know what I mean? Like my life was shit.
I'm a better person from it.
Yeah.
Like I'm much more just a better human being. Much more patient, much, just different.
Yeah.
And because I was just, not that I wasn't a good person before, but I was just so I'm still a little bit out of control as far as work goes and do this and that. Trying to do too much at one time, but it saved my, it's one of the most I look forward to meditation almost more than working out.
So what's your program? Like how
I use Joe's I do it every night before I leave the work. I have a gym in Summerlin. I usually close up, take my dog for like a little. I have trails right behind my. I'm right on the beach, and I have these. It's an incredible place. And then I come back and I put on one of Joe's. He's given me a million of them, so I pick one. Like he has a morning and evening meditation. I'll do the morning one, the evening one, and it just ends my day. I feel like a different person when I leave the gym.
Yeah.
I come home and I just feel better.
Yeah.
And it's just a game changer that I just, people go, oh, you're meditating again. They just, they think I'm kind of lost it, but not really. But then I see the older, like the CEO guys and do it. And a guy that's really influenced me, in fact, it's just kind of, because I told you I train a lot of different people, and like I had this guy, the band System of the Down?
Yeah, yeah.
I trained Surge, the
No shit.
yeah, the And
I'm
he's
fucking
become a
huge fan.
really close friend of mine.
No
And so
way.
he's very into
What a
that.
brilliant human.
Oh, the best. I mean, I'm telling you, like when I first met him, I go, "Oh fuck, he's gonna be an asshole." He came up to
Nah,
Santa
bro,
Barbara. He's
he's
friends
brilliant.
with Buckethead, one of my best. Buckethead lives in He's a guitarist. He lives in Santa Barbara. He's a good friend of mine. And so Serge came to me and he couldn't. He goes, "I can't tour anymore. My back's so bad. I can't do anything. I can't tour. I've tried everything. He gets anxiety and he just couldn't. He was broken." And so we started doing, the foundation stuff changed his life. Like I've trained him like a year and a half now, and he went to Vegas and did that Sick World tour thing, and went on stage, and I watched it. I literally was in tears almost. It's like
He's
watching him jump. I'm like, fuck, sir. I felt better watching that and helping him than almost any athlete I've ever trained. Watching him go up there and be able to do his thing again. Like to see him just scream and run around, and I'm like, I talked to him the next day. I go, fucking Serge, that was, he is the nicest human being.
I love hearing that because I'm a massive fan.
Literally, you will not meet a nicer guy. Like you should get him on your podcast.
I would fucking love that.
He has a book coming out in like 3 weeks.
Dude, I'd love.
But you'll meet him and go, how does this guy go on stage and do that? Like he's like the nicest, most calm person in the world, and and it just blows my mind when he'll text me every night if I say, oh, something went wrong. I go, hey, how's your son doing? I'm like, dude, like how did you remember that? Like he's very conscious.
Yeah
And he's world conscious too. I mean, he's very political and very
yeah.
very passionate about Armenian things and what he does,
where it comes from.
Very.
Yeah.
And just the way he lives his life and how he does operas and he does he does all kinds of, but to watch him do, and he goes, hey, you want to go, we're going to go play in South America and I want you to go. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'll go for 2 weeks, to Brazil and watch you fucking perform every night. But he's just, that's what I'm saying. That having that, it's like an athlete. He's an athlete on stage. It's the same thing. And that's why I like doing the athletes, doing the guys like Serge who are just broken and they can't do their job.
They can't do their thing. Yeah.
No, and it's the same exact process. I mean, they don't have to be like Chase or, but it's the same process to watch them go on stage and do. I was more proud of that than almost anything I've ever done in my life. Just watching him go, oh, dude, you have your life back. It's so
powerful, man.
You have your fucking life back. You're like doing your thing again. Where you before,
and when you can like see a crowd of people,
hundreds of thousands of people,
the impact that like just hearing. Because I remember I saw them in either 2010 or 2012.
Yeah.
And it was in Australia at like one of the biggest metal festivals. They were headlining it.
Yeah.
And there would have been 110,000 people there. And like I was in the pit because they had like Limp Bizkit before it and Linkin Park before it. And it was the fucking dream lineup.
Right.
From my age growing up when I did like System of a Down, Limp Bizkit, Linkin Park.
Was Rage on there?
They weren't there, but that's also there.
Yeah.
But and I left the pit and I was like, I just want to fucking see System of a Down from like 30,000 feet,
Yeah.
And man, like his voice, the show, like the carpets they bring out onto the stage, I was just like transformed, bro, by like hearing that dude perform. I was
He's
like,
the
holy
funniest
fucking
guy.
shit.
Yeah.
So to hear him be an awesome guy,
like
I love that.
Beyond. Like I can't say enough. Literally, like he's the nicest human being in the world.
I love that.
And it's funny because we'll be trying to go, Serge, life is a waterfall. I'm just like, he's, but we have the most, he's just like.
And so he's in Santa Barbara?
No, I do him online. He's in Calabasas.
Oh, okay.
But he comes up almost every other Friday and we just have lunch and like, he's just, I can't say enough about him.
I love that, eh?
So that's what I'm saying. Like I love the athletes, but that's like real life. That's like, it's like bringing
where movement is like medicine to them.
Yeah, where it just, he can go out and do his thing again.
Yeah.
Like, and that's why I love my job so much because you can, the relationships you form with people. Like my clients are my best. Some of my clients I've had 30 years.
Yeah.
These lawyers and people I've trained for like, a long time. And so that they're all athletes. They're occupational athletes. It's just a little different.
Yeah.
It's a little different thing, but it's just being able to, You know, it drives my wife crazy. I'll see someone say, "Oh fuck, I can fix that person." So
Yeah.
like, just get him a little strength and he can. It's frustrating because if people don't realize the power of just movement and being in shape, what it can do to change your whole life.
Yeah. I literally had this conversation this morning with Talon. He's 21. And I'm like, bro, as a fucking 35-year-old man, I can tell you right now how much your life would change if you ran 5Ks a day.
Oh yeah, and
everything in your life, not your fitness, like that would change too.
Yeah,
but like mentally, the development, the relationships, the new people, like there is this insane follow-on effect.
Yeah,
that fitness has in your life.
Yeah,
and if you can put fitness first in your life and be consistent over time, the difference in life you have versus being sedentary is like you're two different people.
Yeah, I mean, I've always told them that's why I love my job. I mean, no one likes to work out more than I do. I mean, probably no one. And I love because one of the reasons I love the motocross kids because I get to like almost train to be because I know what I'm going to have to do during boot camp, and I do every single thing with them, everything. And I want to see how many years I can keep doing that. Like right now, I can, the beginning of boot camp, I can hammer them on the bike, like all the way. And then the end, not so much. Chase can drop me on hills. Tom can start to, Levi. I mean, they're 20 years old, but I just want to see how many years I can keep. I don't want to just be the one that rides an electric bike and goes, oh, okay. I want them to know, okay, I'm doing it every.
You're in the grind.
I think that's why they like me because I run with them, I lift with them, I ride with them, I do everything. And it's almost like keeps me. It's almost like, okay, here's my race. When they're in boot camp, and I look forward to it I mean, I stay in, really good shape, but I have to train a little bit, a couple months. Yeah, I have to go on some 4-hour rides and 5-hour rides before they get there. But I want to see how many years
Chase
I can keep
listening
doing
to this
that.
being like, I'm gonna fucking bury you.
No, I remember I remember boot camp 2 years ago. That the year he had the podcast with you, I think. Any long ride, I could beat Chase. Any long ride. It's the last day of boot camp, and we do this 70-mile ride around the lake. At the very end, there's this like long, like a 2-mile climb to the end. And I go, fuck, I'm going to dust him on this one. Chase just fucking got out of the saddle. I had nothing. I'm like, and he just loved that because that was the turning point.
Yeah.
That was where like, Simba beat Mufasa. He just, from that point on, he did not fear me anymore, and it was just like he was gone, and there was nothing I could do. It was like Lance just took off. Chase could probably be a pro cyclist.
Really?
Oh fuck yeah! I mean, even John. John Westling. He trains Jason Anderson. He's a good friend of mine. He trained Chase when Chase was a kid, so we talk all the time. And he's a pro mountain biker, and he just goes, Chase could probably be a criterium rider or
yeah. What would he ride? Do you reckon?
If he lost weight, he could be like Lance. I mean, he's built like Lance. Chase could be 170 pounds if he rode 400 miles a week. He's just a beast on the bike. That's what I'm saying. He's got all the tools. Like there is no way any other rider I don't think could beat him on a bike. He's that good.
Like on the cycle.
On a cycle,
yeah.
He's that good. He's very good on a bike. And he climbs very well for someone that size. Like he can motor on a bike. So it's, but the boot camp's fun because it's actually that's my world championship.
Yeah, that's
it for me. Every year I want to see how many years I can keep, and my wife goes, oh fuck, here comes boot camp. You're out.
You're going to be a psycho again.
Yeah.
For the next,
yeah. For 2 months.
So how could if there's a normal person that's listening to this that isn't training a bunch and fitness and like movement isn't a prerequisite in their life, like what would you recommend for people
to just to stay healthy,
just to get going, and to like what's the bare minimum that you should be doing as just a normal human in this life?
At least 3 days a week of like low end cardio. I mean, just build the zone, build that zone just in your aerobic system. That's that and weights I'd put in about equal. If I had to pick one, I'd probably pick strength training over if I had to only pick one. Of course I never would, but if I had to pick one. And basic movement like foundation. Just teach your body to move the right way. Learn how to stack your body, like hinge right, squat right, and get someone that knows what they're doing. Otherwise, I mean, you could pay a good one, and you don't go off the internet. Go find someone that knows what they're doing and just learn correct technique, and then you don't need that much. You could lift 2 days a week for 40 minutes and do plenty. Do some push-ups and sit-ups, a couple squats, and you don't. It doesn't have to be cute or pretty. It's just consistency.
Yeah.
And doing it week after week after week. That's what I do. If I get a CEO guy, I'll look at his schedule and go, okay, how much hours can you put in without wrecking your life? I know you can do this for a week. I could kill you for a week and you could do it, but it's not sustainable. What's a sustainable amount of time you can do? And so I'll design a program around kind of what they're, and most of these guys can fit in an hour a day. And who can't for their health? I mean, you should be able to. If you can't, then there's something wrong with your schedule.
Plus the gains that you get on the backside.
Oh, and the mental clarity, the executive function, the everything. They're changed people once you get them to start eating, get off of processed foods. And that's the number one thing I say. Okay, get off processed foods and sugar. Like, that's number one. Like, we're barking up the wrong tree if you're not even going to change your diet. You can get in a little better shape, but if you don't change from the inside first, that's got to be number one. You got to change the way you eat a little. It depends how they're eating. Most of these guys eat like shit, and then learn movement and then a little strength. And it's not brain science. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not that hard if you just do it right. If you just were consistent with a little bit. I mean, if you just did kettlebell swings, push-ups, a little core, and some foundation and some low end, you're fine. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, for someone that's not training for something, what else do you need? Nothing. That's it. I mean, it's not hard. I mean, just do that week after week after week. Change the loads a little bit, and you're there. It's not that hard.
And so, can you see, like, you would have seen over years, like, just dramatic differences in, like, let's say a CEO, once they started going from nothing to train. Like, that's the thing I think is so understated to people. It's like, dude, the fitness side and, like, just the health, like, what you gain in all of the areas in your life. Like, I'd say to people, it's like, I think a lot of people spend 97% of their time focusing on stuff that's going to give them 3%.
You're right.
100% of the yield.
100%.
And then it's like, if you spend 90% of your time doing the right things, or 3% of your time doing the right exact shit, you're going to get the results in the 97. It's like so many people have the equation flipped.
Yeah, and that's why I like working with the CEO guys, because I tell people athletes want this much difference. CEO, I can change their whole life. And it's very rewarding to see, a very successful billionaire guy that has everything but his health to get that back. Like Serge, to see like they can do, just clear and like better people. The wives all thank me. Like, you changed his life. You can completely change their lives. But like I said, with like chasing them, I'm looking like it's very small. So I get all the athletes. I go, why do you train all these other people? I go, because
you can make such an outside.
Sets an impact. Yeah. And that's what I've always. That's why I'm glad, Eric. Like how can I get the right stuff out to more people? Like, what's the avenue where I could, because I'm not a camera like guy that's gonna go on and go, oh, here I am. Like, just Eric's way better at that than me.
Yeah.
Like Eric he's a very good speaker and he could go wherever he wants and do. I just don't want to do that. I just get people one-on-one and then more people, but I want to see. People are so uneducated on what the right things to do. Like you said, it's like not that hard if you just do the right things.
Yeah.
People get on. There's so many variables in America that everyone's so confused, from diet to exercise. Like there's keto, there's vegan, there's intermittent fasting. People are so fucking confused.
Well, again, I think that's like people focusing on the wrong things.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's not even what you need to
think about. Is there Zumba? Should I do CrossFit? Should I do MMA training? Should I go to this boxing gym? Should I do? It's like, just do basic movement, push-ups, sit-ups, couple squats, and every day, and eat great. You're there.
Yeah.
But they just and then they burn out, and they do the wrong things, and they'll do CrossFit and get hurt or do whatever. I'm not against CrossFit, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's for the normal person that has I think the internet has wrecked a lot of people. I still get people that come to me and go, well, I saw this trainer doing. I'm like, fuck you, like that's so dumb.
Yeah.
Like you're not doing that. Like you're not 25 and you're not going to do a dragon squat. Like you're not doing that.
Yeah.
Never happening. Like
Yeah.
it's not happening. You're fucking 80. You're not doing a dragon squat. Not happening.
You don't need to do that.
No. So that's what I'm saying. The internet has been, it's for trainers is kind of a nightmare because people just like they look at this stuff, these influencers that really aren't trainers, that just look good.
Yeah.
And they move really well. They're genetic freaks, but it's like, is that good for a 65-year-old CEO that can't? No, you just need to stick with the basics and just do it.
And like you don't have to compare yourself to anybody.
No. I mean, for me, in the last 3 years, I've turned more to like, I want more longevity than I do. Chase will laugh at me. He'll go, fuck you, you work out like 100 hours a day.
Yeah.
But he doesn't see me really, because Chase thinks I'm just stupid for working out as much as I do at my age. He'll be the first one to tell you. But I mean, now I just don't lift as heavy. I don't go for 400-pound deadlifts anymore. I just don't do a lot. I'm looking more because I go, God, I want to be 80 and still be able to ride the bike and still be able to. So you get to a certain point where like, okay, because training like an athlete is not healthy. It's not. No, running an Ironman or even training really, and because like Chase or any endurance athlete has to eat a lot of sugar. You're always, you're kind of always on that. You're doing a lot of high intensity.
Yeah.
If I was going to train, you want to live as long as you want, would I have them train like an athlete? No fucking way.
Yeah.
It'd be like, okay, let's do mostly zone 2, 1 or 2 days a week. We'll do some short intervals. We'll eat good and do some strength training, some heavy stuff, but not a ton. And then that's where you're going to live long.
That's the longevity.
Yeah, that's a longevity program and sleep. But with an athlete, you're pushing way too much. You're eating way too much sugar. You're stressed out. It's not healthy.
Yeah.
And doing an Ironman is not healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun, but is it healthy? Like to live the longest, the longevity? No. Everyone goes, "Oh, you're doing Ironman." No, you're not the healthiest.
Yeah.
It's not. So there are two different programs, and I always tell the CEO guys that I'm like, you guys, your program and athletes is completely because in my gym they all kind of intermix.
Yeah.
Like Chase will come in with like a billionaire guy,
looking like a fucking G.
Yeah, and they'll and they all like kind of they
shredded,
and they both respect each other.
Yeah,
like the athlete wants to be the CEO, and the CEO wants to be the
Chase
athlete.
wants $1 billion.
Yeah, and they just it's a funny thing, and I'm like, and they all want what the other has.
Yeah.
So it's a funny mix. But I tell the CEO guy, like, no, like you're not gonna go do 36-inch box jumps. Why? Like we'll do a little plyo stuff. I mean, you need some elasticity, but your program's completely different than that.
Yeah.
So don't even watch those kids train.
Yeah.
Like it's a different program. I mean, they do, similar exercises, but it's not, if you want to be healthy, it's a completely different program.
Yeah.
And so that's what people, don't train their age either.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just think like I would just love to, if people take anything from me, it's like, you just got to want the right thing.
Yeah.
And if you do, like to run 5Ks a day in zone 2.
Yeah.
If you do 5Ks a day in zone 2,
and do some push-ups and core and
but like
foundation.
What would change in your life?
Everything.
Like the person you would become. So like all these other things that you spend all this time thinking about and wanting would just happen to you based off a 30-minute run.
But what drives me crazy is all this new like infrared, cold plunges.
I agree.
I'm just like,
I don't do any of it. I like saunas though.
I'll do it, but if you're gonna go for a run or go do cold plunge and contrast therapy, fucking run.
Yeah.
Like, but so these morning routines, like who the fuck has time for a morning routine? Like, if you're busy, like you don't.
Yeah.
Like you can't get up and have your tea and like do like these stretches. I'm like, it's not happening. So there's so much of this stuff out there.
It's almost like sexualized. It's just like fucking workout porn, hustle porn, routine porn.
No, there's this shit that the NAD and the plasma therapy and the this and all the hacks.
Yeah.
Like just eat well. I mean, you don't need all that shit. Like I mean, I'm sure there's some stuff that actually can, but you see like these guys that are trying to live to be 120 or whatever.
I
Like,
know that Brian Johnson
yeah,
guy. Fuck.
and I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like,
But isn't that guy? I mean, I would like to have him on the podcast. It'd be quite interesting
it would be. No.
hear his perspective. But
Yeah.
like my take on him and my question is like, okay, what's the point of living 20 years longer if you've spent 60 years to do it?
I know.
You're at a net loss of 40 years of
No,
your
and what is he?
fucking life.
I mean, all day long, and you can't live.
No, there's no living. He's
No.
fully stopped living. So he's trying not to die. But to do that, he's stopped living.
Yeah, and that's you get guys, the CEO guys, where I'm like I have an artist that I train that's a movie guy, and he's from Italy, and he's a very famous artist, and he comes in, and he goes, and he trains with Adam Levine and all these people, and he's like, I want to look like that, like Marco, like you live this life, you're an artist, you go to Italy, you eat pizza, like that's
Pasta,
part of your
bread.
fucking life.
Yeah.
That's like your life. You would be miserable if you were like Adam or these other people. You can't. You look great. He's not fat. He's looking for that.
He's Italian.
Yeah, and he likes gelato, and it's just like he grew up in that lifestyle with wine. And I go, Marco, you look great for what What do you want to look this way for? Like, just you're fine. You're healthy. You don't eat bad all the time. You drink a little wine. You eat pizza. You have 3 little kids. Like, quit it. Because he comes in and he grabs his side all the time. I get rid of it. I'm like, okay, Marco, you know what you're gonna have to live like if you do this. You're gonna have to live. You're gonna miss almost everything that makes you you. So you're healthy. You do it in moderation. You don't overdo anything. But are you gonna look like Chase or like Adam Levine? No, unless you live like a monk, like they do.
Yeah.
Adam likes to look like that because he's on stage.
Yeah.
But you don't have to. And Serge is the same way. He has a little gut, but he's like, I like to live.
He's also a fucking rock star.
Yeah, I know, and he's healthy. He does everything in moderation. He's great, So there's this, but there's a certain type of people that just want to look. They're very vain, and they want to look.
Well, that's what I was saying. Is like you gotta figure out a way to hack your brain to want.
Yeah,
the
but
right
that's
things.
not. I mean, and you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be healthy. That's not going to make you healthy. Like, so there's a fine line. I mean, are you eating pizza every day and Doritos? And no, you live 85%, 90% perfect. So you're not ripped. Like, let's be happy. Like, you don't need to go to that road unless, okay, you have a photo shoot or something for 1 month. You want to look like that. Give it up for 2 months and be ripped for a month, and you can do it. That's easy. Like, but you don't have to be that way 12 months out of the year.
Mm.
So it's with my job, it's that fine line of figuring out like who they are and what, like if you have to go on stage, like an actor that comes to me and goes, okay, I have to do the shirtless scene and I have to have veins in my abs. That's different. You just hack it for 2 months and, and you can look that way, but then they don't look. That's what is so bad about the internet and stuff. They see an actor or something look like that, and I go, they don't fucking look like that all the time.
Yeah, he looked like that for 3.
Like, I trained Matthew McConaughey for a long time, and everyone's like, I go, he doesn't fucking look like that. He only takes his shirt off when he looks like that. That's why you see all those pictures with him. He's 10 pounds heavier normally, and he eats bad. Like, he's not like that. So all these young kids have this thought of like that's what they look like and it's just so skewed where it bugs me because it's just like that unattainable body.
Yeah.
And it's killing a lot of the girls, like young girls.
Yeah. Oh man, for sure it is. What's with all the people that you've trained and all the people that you've worked with over the years, what would be some advice that you wish you could go back and give yourself at like 20?
Mellow out. I trained way too hard. I was the biggest overtrainer in the world.
Really?
Oh my God. Yeah. Lance would even go, you're fucking dumb. I would ride, 2 days a week, I would ride from Santa Barbara to San Diego and then take the train home.
What the fuck?
200 miles. I'd ride from Santa Barbara all the way to San Diego, go to this all-you-can-eat place, like steal muffins and stuff, put them in my bag, and then go on the train with my bike and then take the train home. And I'd run 70 miles. I would go back and go, okay, I just thought if some is good, more is better. And some of my athletes have gotten like now I'm way smarter than I was. Even with Chad, I probably overtrained him a little bit. He'd go on a little bit. But you just learn. And I was just like a maniac that way. If I saw someone do more, I wanted to do more.
Yeah.
And I had that body that could put in a ton of volume.
Yeah.
Like I would literally at my height, I would ride 400 miles, I'd run 70 and swim probably 25,000 when I was racing pro triathlons. But I'd have these career where I'd do race really, really well, and I'd just fucking crash and
Yeah.
then recover, and I'd do the same thing. And then finally at the end of my career, I'm like, okay, I've just learned. You just learn, and it's a lot easier to train people than it is to train yourself.
Yeah.
Way easier. So I've just learned. I've made a lot of mistakes, and luckily all these guys are. I'm way smarter with reading their language. Like when I talk to them, I can read them. I can look them in the eye. Usually I told you on the phone the other day, I can talk to Levi or Tom or Chase and know exactly how they're feeling that day.
Mm.
So that it's just a skill you get from training so many people.
Yeah.
Or a CEO guy, if he he'll walk in and we'll have like a test day or something, like where I'll look at him and go, you're not doing this today.
Yeah.
You can just see by their affect and how they are. So that's probably the best thing I've gotten lately is being more, a little more flexible with schedules.
Yeah.
You have to be now. I mean, you can't, otherwise you're just, you have to kind of go with how they are that day. You can't, just because I have, a 30-minute all-out session on that day, if it's not there, I'm not going to let them do it.
Yeah.
Where before I would say, I'll just do it. You pussy, just fucking do it.
Yeah.
So you just learn, push and pull a lot more as you get older. And I think all these guys are getting a lot better version of me than was me, 20 years ago.
And what about like not so much physically, but just interacting with these people as humans, all the people.
Yeah. I mean, it's
what would you tell yourself at 25? Like, is
25, I was way too competitive.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to see anyone else do good. I mean, if a competitor was, oh fuck, he sucks, he does this, now I'm like, fuck, that guy's fucking good. Like he's good. Like say, like I was told you on the phone, like Alden's obviously good. He's like he trained 1 million people, and they've done like, 25 years ago. Oh, he sucks. He does this. Look, why does he do this? This is so dumb. But fuck, look what he's done. Like he's obviously doing something right. So I'm just much more open to other. There's more than one way to skin the cat.
Yeah.
And listen to other listen to other views, and be more tolerant of other views. And before I was not. I was just like, very selfish and in my ways, and like I didn't want to see anyone else succeed, trainers or anything. Now I'm way more like, hey, like I'll call other trainers or like Johnny O, go, hey, congrats, like Jet One. It's like before I would have gone, fuck him, like he sucks, So just, and with the athletes, I just, they're like friends. It's not like I just care about them. I mean, I have to. Number one, they're humans, and they have to be
good humans.
Yeah, I go through a lot with those guys, ups and downs.
Mm.
Like I'm like a mentor to them too.
Yeah.
I try to be a positive, and I try to teach them about, like if if they're doing something I think is like shitty, like Chase, fuck, what are you doing? Like this guy's done a lot for you. Fucking give him something, like whatever it is. It's not just Chase. It's the same thing. I'll try to, be a better human being, and just treat people better and be humble.
Yeah.
Humble. I mean, I learned a lot from one of my CEO guys. Just like he's worth like, $20 billion, and he's the most humble. And like I remember he walked into my gym once, and I was on the floor screaming. He goes, "That's what you should be doing." Just stay humble. Don't ever. I never think I'm better than anyone else.
Yeah.
Like with people that work for me, if we're a team, I never think, oh, like when people put me on this thing, oh my boss, I'm like, don't fucking call me your boss. I work with you. So I try to, not be that. I don't like to be that person up there. I don't feel like I'm better than, my housekeeper.
Yeah. Like
I treat them, very respectfully. And I think that's important as these athletes to become humble too.
Yeah.
And just keep they're going to be like in interviews and, just be a good person. Like you're going to get way further in life than if you're on there being like an asshole.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like ego. And I think that's really what.
That's what I had, when I was younger, and that's why I see these guys. I'm like, oh, I see why. I was that way.
Yeah,
But if they can like just see the bigger picture and like, I can be a good person and a fucking fierce competitor too.
yeah,
And just, and I know it's hard, but you know, just stay humble and just you're gonna get way further
yeah.
in life. I mean, with sponsors, with everyone.
I think of it as like you've got this toolkit in life that you need to use. Like aggression is a tool.
Mm-hmm.
Your like fierce competitiveness is a tool. Humility is a tool. Kindness is a tool. Empathy is a tool. Like as a human being, you have all of these different tools that you can use, and you can like respond to situations that you find yourself in the world with the appropriate tool.
Right.
And it's like to live life only using the ego tool.
Yeah, not good.
But that's what young people do. Like
I did.
Yeah, I did. Fuck, dude. Same shit.
Yeah.
Until I was probably, like 29. When I
was older.
first read the, like the Waking Up and Joe Dispenza.
Yeah.
I'd never. I guess I did think about it a lot, but I thought about it without an answer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there was probably like a long period of time where I was thinking about it, but not effective because I didn't really know what the fuck I was even looking for.
Or why you were doing it. Yeah.
But it's like when you can see, and that was kind of what I was saying before about like the Kobe thing, or like Lance. Like Lance has used that tool, and he got so fucking good at
Anger.
using.
He wrote off anger.
Yeah, the ego aggression tool, and every part of his life he used it.
Yeah.
And like it's you'd feel the same in business, right? Like there's been times in my life where I've been so fucking selfish and so focused on business and so inconsiderate of other people's feelings that like I ended up doing good.
Yeah.
And then you start doing good, and it's like a false positive.
Yep.
Almost,
I know
where
exactly what you mean.
you're going like, yeah, but I'm the fucking man.
Yeah.
Like, or you think, well, all I need to do is keep working and making more money, and then I'll just pay to fix that problem that came as a result.
Yeah.
And I'll just pay to fix that, and I'll pay to get that taken care of. It's like I don't need to deal with these other things, because if this goes up, then I can take care
Well,
of it.
and you learn lessons. I remember probably one of the biggest lessons. I mean, the hardest one I learned was I was with Lance, and Livestrong had I don't know, they were doing an interview with me about their treadmills or something, and they were coming to the gym in Santa Barbara, and they were coming from LA, and there was an accident, but it was my son's 5-year-old birthday at the same day. So they're going to be late. Instead of going saying, hey, I can't do this, they're we got to do this because we're going to New York tomorrow. It went till 10 at night, and I missed my whole son's birthday. Never forgave myself for that. I would have never done that today. I would have said, fuck you guys. I'm
Yeah.
And my son was so hurt by that whole thing. I mean, I almost get tears in my eyes thinking about it now. It was just like, I came home and I felt like the biggest asshole. Because I finished and I was like, oh, I can't believe I just fucking did that.
Yeah.
Like, what a fucking asshole. Like, and my wife, and they had this party, and my son, I had to take him he's very emotionally, and my older son is like very emotionally mature.
Yeah.
And he was just fucking devastated. And to this day, I don't forgive myself for that. I'm like, I can't. That's one thing. I mean, it sounds trivial, but overall, it told a lot with what I was doing at my point in my life.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Is like probably that was
the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, that was
where I just went, like, oh my god, I was like,
guy.
I'm out of control.
Yeah, you're this guy.
I'm totally out of control here. My values, everything is totally skewed here.
Yeah.
I should have just said, like, of course I should have said, hey, it's my son's 5th year. I don't fucking care. You guys blew it. I can't do this. But I remember it was 10 at night when I got out, and I couldn't even say the lines because the whole time I knew what I was doing. I just couldn't. It was like I couldn't stop the monster.
Yeah.
And I just kept talking like, yeah, go to Livestrong and do it. And then I couldn't. I mean, I had to take 100 takes. That's why it took me so long to do it. And then when I got home, I'll never forget, my son just looked at me and he was crying, and I just went, oh, fuck. And then it killed me for fucking months.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe I fucking did that. But it did. It was exactly like, okay, this is who I am. This is like,
yeah.
And I still fight it to this day. That's still who I am.
Yeah, and
I still fight that.
And that's what I was saying is like it's a tool though.
Yeah.
You know, like you've got that gear.
Yeah.
Like you've got that guy
But I
in you
gotta
that
compartmentalize it.
yeah, but it's like if you can't use it's like when you're building a house, right? Before you've got to hammer. Well, it's gonna be real fucking hard to install the windows.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's just certain things that
Yeah.
the hammer's not gonna get the job done.
Yeah.
And it's like you gotta know or like develop those other skills or invest in those other skills. And it's like I really do wonder if it's possible to be like that Kobe Bryant where you can turn it on and turn it off.
I still don't turn it off well enough yet. It's still a work in
that's-
even though I know,
yeah.
but I can't. Way better. But am I perfect? No, I still work way too much. I still take on way too much. I still commit to way too much. But I've gotten much. I mean, I'll draw a line. You know, I won't. You know, go. That's just in my DNA. That's how I'm wired to do that. To just like always. You know, I'm a goer, and I have a hard time. Except meditating, shutting off, but it's a work in progress. You know, I've gotten better. You know, my wife says that. You know, you've gone better as you've gotten older.
I think it's not like linear though, right? Like in especially like when you talk about the meditation and that side of things. Like I've gone backwards massive from where I was in.
Yeah.
Bro, in COVID, I was literally a fucking monk.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like
same thing.
2020,
Oh, COVID, I was great.
2022, bro, you could not piss me off.
No.
I was fucking
It was a whole
zen,
different
dude.
world. It was like that was like a little micro culture of everybody says that.
Yeah.
Like my CEU guys, some of them lost hundreds of pounds. You know, they finally could focus on themselves, and it was like you know now that I see them all like me, just slowly. You know, going back to that old, it's easy to slip back into it.
Yeah, yeah, and because I think that there's like a certain level that the world requires you to be that.
Yeah,
you know, and for me, it's like I'm the fucking one that is responsible for taking care of our family.
Yeah,
that's on me.
I know,
and that requires like a certain me to play a certain role.
Yeah.
But
like, for sure.
That role can just start bleeding out. It's like you're the character of this movie. Like we all kind of like are a character in like the different settings that we're in, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like when I'm doing the work thing and I'm in work mode, like that's the fucking athlete version of me. But it's like I don't need to be that dude.
No, 24
on a Sunday.
Yeah.
At the markets picking vegetables.
No, but I know. I talk to my therapist about this often. I go, well, I don't want to be normal. You know, I mean, that's who I am. Like, I don't, I don't want to be, I like the way I am, like the psycho, like part of me likes it, you know, like that's who I am. Like, I don't want, you know, I see people that just don't live life like to their fullest. They just live these really boring existences, like in a program where they go to work and they don't do anything really. There's no passion.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like I love the passion that I have for working out, for my athletes, for people like Serge, and I just love it, and I don't want that to change. But I want to be a little more, like you said, be able to relax on a Sunday and not be so like because I talk to Serge about this all the time. He goes, I go on vacation, I need a vacation from my vacation because I can't. I just want to work.
Yeah.
You know, he goes, I can't. You know, I go to vacation, I want to go write in my studio and, you know, do my stuff. And I'm the same. I'm like, I'm on vacation. Okay, sitting on the beach is good for like a day.
Yeah.
Then I'm ready. Okay, I'm ready to go back and do my, you know, I just think it's just the way we're all wired.
Yeah, and I think there's a level that when you're a person that like you have cultivated the life that you want to live.
Yeah.
You know, so you're in this weird intersection where your work and the thing that brings you money and that you get like just opportunities like everyone that if you're doing like a high level like there'd be new people calling you all the time.
Yeah.
There's people calling me all the time.
Yeah.
You know, there's always something being asked of you.
Yeah.
Quite like you're like this self-generating opportunity factory at this point, right?
Yep.
And it's like when you are that person, your life kind of like has this momentum.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's the thing as well is like being able to gauge like operate within a limit because it's like you kind of are limitless in a sense, but your income is tied to your work, which is a very, very murky in terms of your hobbies and passions and what you would do anyway. So it's like it's very easy to be a workaholic when your job is something that you would do for free.
I would.
Or
That's
that
what
you
I'm
would
saying.
do in your spare time.
You know,
for
much
fun,
to
you know?
my wife's, I really don't fucking care about money. That's not, just drives me at zero.
Yeah.
Like zero. As long as I can have my coffee and go do my workouts, and I don't,
Yeah,
you
the
know.
gym's where you want it
Yeah,
to
I
be. Your
don't.
house
Yeah, I
is where
have a
you want it
great
to
gym,
be.
but it's not about that. And right now, like everyone and their mother has moved to Santa Barbara, so I'm probably the most successful I've ever been right now in my career. Like the crazy people that moved to Santa Barbara, the celebrities, the CEO, the billionaire. I mean, it's like, I mean, every day I get a call. Oh, you know, so and so. Like, fuck, are you serious? They live here, and I'm like, oh, I can't give that. I can't not do that one.
Yeah,
You know, so I formed this thing in my gym where, I mean, it's funny because I don't have any more hours.
Yeah.
So what I've done is put all these guys in like different circuit. Like I'll have like, okay, you can come at 9, 1, or 4, and you know there's gonna be 3 or 4 people in there. And it's turned out to be just like this beautiful
Melting
thing,
pot.
perfect thing because they all love each other. They all train very similar. They're all just general fitness that just want health. And so, you know, like, you know, guys like, you know, the rock stars like Benji from the, you know, those
Yeah,
Charlotte.
yeah.
He lives there, and I put him with Adam, and they just like, and with Buckethead, and they just have these groups, and it's turned out to be this like unbelievable fun community we
Of like
have.
like-minded people.
Yeah,
with
and then the
similar
CEO, and
goals.
then it's just like I've created this. It's almost like a bar,
Yeah.
like at the gym. It's a private gym. I own the building, and we have a big outside. So I've created like almost like this. It's like a social thing where they're all getting fit, but I've been able to, you know, because usually I can't take my. Oh, he's just fit in this group. Now, if someone calls me, I can just go. Very rarely do people want to train one-on-one anymore.
Hmm.
I mean, if they're new and they're horrible, of course I'll have to do a couple weeks to get them to
In the
learn how to
shape.
move
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
You know, just to move to do the stuff. But now you know, because the guys like all those rock star guys, they're so busy and traveling all the time, and the actors that I go, okay, you just pay me a retainer and you come. You can come at 9 or usually they pick 1 hour that usually they can come to, but they have a million other options they can come to if they can't make that hour.
Yeah.
So they never miss. So it's turned out to be this perfect thing for me because I can just do like mix and match, and it's created this. You know, I can only do that if I own my gym, and I only have like 1 or 2 other trainers at the gym.
Yeah.
So it's like it's in Summerlin, which is you know where Montecito is.
Yeah.
So it's just 1 block up. It's right this quiet little town. I have this perfect spot on the beach, and it's just I couldn't be. I mean, I'm in like it's like my home. It's like
Yeah.
I own the building. It's like I mean, I'm in a better place in my career than I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
Just because I've created this. It's so. I mean, I go to work and I go, I can't believe I'm talking to the most interesting people in the world. I'm learning a shitload, and I'm having. It's like I just go to a party all day long.
Yeah.
And just share knowledge. It's all I do. And I mean, they give to me as much as I give to them, though. I mean, the shit I learned from just watching them do their thing, and these are all these high achievers. I'm
Yeah.
like, I learned so much from these people.
It's
Like,
insane the rub
oh,
that you can get off brilliant
it's
people.
and no, I mean, some of these guys are some of the best minds in the world in business. Like some of the guys that are in my circuit class are like, you know, Stanford teachers who teach economics and just came up with some hedge fund that made billions of dollars. But I'm like, and they just and they're like, Peter, why do you do it? You know, I just learn. It's just such a great way to learn. I just feel I mean, I honestly feel like the luckiest person in the world. I'm like, I get to all I do all day long, and then you know, and then I have this thing that where my athletic part gets to go with Chase and these baseball players and do that part. I mean, but as you can see, the time constraint. It's not. It's like my my wife's used to it, but you know, there's got to come a time where I just like you know, it's like Forrest Gump just saying stop running. You know?
Yeah.
Because it's
I think I'm go home
but I'm
now.
on a high right now. I mean, I'm at the best part of my career.
Well, and that's beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's great. That's what I'm saying. I'm so happy. I mean, with everything I'm doing, you know, I could bring my dog to work every day. I mean, I pick like 4 clients I work out with. You know, I just go, hey, I'm working out with you today, and I just
Yeah.
get all my workouts in. And then on the weekends, I get to do some long mountain bike stuff. I mean, and I live where I live. I mean, if you saw my gym, you'd freak out. You know, you look out and all you see is ocean.
Yeah.
And there's no one, you know, people can come there that are super famous and they feel like it's their house.
Yeah.
Like they all have a key to the gym. Everyone could just come in whenever they want.
Well, I think that's what I was going to say before about when you were describing like you've got the rock star guys go here and then the business guy. Like there's also something to like there's a lack of the further you go in life, and the quote unquote successful or that you get at the thing that you're doing, the fewer people that can relate to you and your experiences.
Right.
And I think that's why you see a lot of like sadness and depression in people that are on like that super high level or like high end of the spectrum.
Right.
Is when they're not around people that can have like that relate to their experiences.
Yeah.
And it's like, you look at Chad. He had James Stewart and Ricky Carmichael.
Yeah.
They were the only people that knew what he was going through.
Yeah.
You know, and if you don't know those two people,
No.
or if you're not on speaking terms with those two people, then like you're fucking on an island.
Yeah.
You know, and I think to a lesser extent, but it's like, yeah, to have an environment where those, you know, guys and girls can go to where it's like they know that they're in a similar league. They know that they're with peers in a time that's like very, like you're almost peerless. Like if you're a fucking billionaire, like you're almost peerless, you know? So to have a space that you can go to that has like these like-minded, and not just like-minded, but like experienced people, like that's got to be
and they're
very
all,
valuable
and
in
it's
itself.
fun because they're all in different areas of life, but there's the top of their game at different areas in life. And I'll have to say that when I first started going to LA, you know, it's just when I started training guys like these big, like, big time music producers, and it was not good for me because I'd see what they did. They were like always on a call, answering email. I'm like, oh fuck, this is what you have to do to be like where they are.
Because like the extreme nature that you would train, you can also do that in business.
They do.
Yeah.
And those are the guys that are at the top. I see it.
Yeah.
You know, there's not one wimpy guy that's at the top that does what these guys do. But even more than me, I see these guys that, you know, they have families, but they travel to Europe for, you know, 2 weeks at a time, and it's wild what you know, luckily I'm home all the time, but a lot of these rock stars and CEO guys, their lives are crazy busy. Like they're going on planes here every week. Like I at least I was home every night. I always made sure, even when I drove to LA 3 days a week, I never stayed down there. But I just see, I mean, there's, like you say, you see these high achievers, and they're very similar, very similar mindsets, very similar. That's why they are where they are. But are they always the happiest? You know, I mean, with their, you know, family life and stuff, not always.
Yeah, and I think that's the balance. Like that's the big balance I'm trying to find.
Yeah, because I don't think I was home more than 8 times in the morning to take my kids to school. And I regret that. You know, my wife worked in a hospital, you know, she's a nurse, and I always picked them up, and I did all the night stuff, and, you know, I bonded, you know, I had a lot of time with them, but, you know, there's, you know, when you work, you know, I still struggle with balance, you know, if there's such thing, you know,
I don't think there is. No. And I think that's the answer too, you know, like, are you a big reader? You read a lot?
Yeah.
Have you ever read 4,000 Weeks?
No.
I'm going to buy it for you. It's my gift for you coming
Okay.
on the podcast. I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of the most brilliant, like the same sort of shift that you can have in like the meditation things. Like there was a pretty big shift in terms of like time management and like how to even view time. So it's basically the long and the short of the summary of the book is like, we think about time wrong. We need to think in these parameters of like, I'm a finite human with finite resources, and I'm living in a universe of infinity.
Oh, that's a good.
So just that.
That's heavy.
That's real.
Yeah, it's real.
You know, you're finite. You have a set number of.
Trust me, I wake up and I go, I'm almost fucking. It's just so weird to be almost 60. Like when I see Chase, I go, I could fucking be your dad.
Yeah.
It's just so weird to all of a sudden be old. Like where before I always thought of myself as like the young one. And now all these trainers that come in and are working in summer, they seem like fucking Yoda or something.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like this old, like wise, like it's just so weird to me.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I still have the brain and the thought process of being 24.
The outside world still looks the same.
No, but it's just weird to be all. I mean, it happens like you're saying. It's finite and it's going fast.
But I think the knowledge of that. Oh, I'm excited to buy this book.
Yeah.
You'll love it.
Yeah.
But it's that knowledge of just knowing that you're this finite resource, you know, because I've been living in this, like I've been doing this podcast 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And I had $0. Literally. I business thing go to shit took me to zero. So I was like 28 years old with literally zero. And I had a visa here and I was living here and I had some shit go wrong with the visa. I was put in prison in LAX for fucking 24 hours and I got sent to Australia back on a flight with literally nothing, bro. Half my shit was here. My fucking dog was here. You know, like I went as bottom as fucking low as you could go. Like I literally sat in LAX as a 28-year-old replanning the rest of my fucking life.
Wow.
Because everything in 1 second got taken away. And it's like when you're that person and you grind to have this business and to have it be successful, and it's like none of this shit was in moto. Like the way that we, you know, this long form conversation one-on-one with the person with it was in other places.
Yeah.
But it's like the work that it took to make this viable. The work that it took to make this sustainable to where I can have staff, to where it can grow, to where it can, like, can be my sole focus.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, that requires so much fucking effort. And it's what you'd know. It's what every business person or anyone that has something of their own in life that they've started from nothing. It's like the work that you have to put in. And so I've been for 5 years living in this mentality of like, get more, do more, be more, get more, like, because you're in a race with time essentially, and like sustainability. Like, how do I take this opportunity and make it and again, you're like just sucking in this infinity as this finite person. And I think just honestly having that perspective and starting to like live from that place. And now to me, like I just put on it like a manager, and I've got like I've kind of changed. I'm starting to change my life.
Yeah, you found it long. You found it young.
Trying, you know, like
That's
because
good. I was like 45.
Dude, but that's like blind luck to even find this shit. I think.
Well, to have the emotional intelligence to realize it too.
And so it's like once I now go, what's the limit? What's my limit? And it's like, now let's max out this limit. Let's build this life within operating in that limit, you know. And it's like just to switch that mindset from being able to take on everyone, being able to do like, I mean, there's times where, you know, even this year, like someone like Anderson hits me up and says he has the thing with Jet. They're getting each other's face, and he's like, I want to do the podcast tomorrow. And it's like, my week in my life is not set up for that. Like, fuck, I really, and
you did it probably, right?
Yeah, and we did it, and it was amazing. And it's like, you know, there's a level of like grit and grind and determination that you have to be like.
And that's what I always tell Chase.
Anything in life.
I'm saying, be willing to do things others aren't willing to do.
Yeah. Well, thing that's crazy. I don't know whether this resonates with you, but like, in my opinion, it ain't that fucking hard to stand out.
No, I agree.
There's a lot of people going through.
No.
There's a lot of people going through life at 6%.
No. 5. For sure.
Agree.
100%. I mean, I think it's easy.
Like,
it is to just do things that other people won't do.
Yep.
And that's most. Not a lot of people are willing to do what you do.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that, you know, we were having the conversation this morning, you know, where it's like, I think people think life's harder than it is, in a sense.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like that whole run 5Ks thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's a 30 minutes of your day.
No, but it's just, you watch kids or something, and you just go, God, what are you doing? Like, the world's so easy to grab and just take by the balls if you can just if you figure out what your passion is and you just want to get it.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, both my kids are pretty motivated. My younger one's doing he wants to be an agent, and he's like, he's at UT going to school, and all of a sudden I give him a certain amount of money, we give him a certain amount, and I get I'm like, he keeps calling me for money. I'm like, Carter, what are all these fucking Ubers and Chipotle 3 times a day, you know? So he went and got a job and is working in Lance's restaurant in Austin, and working 3 days a week as a waiter, which is going to help him as an agent, to work with, So, that's the thing. He grinded away and he saw it, and that's what I want to see in my kids. I just want to see them have, and and hopefully you and I, if you have kids, they see.
Mm.
They didn't grow up with a silver spoon watching me. They watched me grind my ass off
Yeah.
and work hard, and I can see it's rubbed off on them, like you say, the rub effect.
Mm.
And I never, I was always pretty, good with my people and I mean, that's so important with the kids. And I have a nonprofit at the gym
Oh,
for
really?
high school kids that can't afford training, and I give a couple hours a day to where we just train them all for free. And that's the biggest thing I see is they don't have any mentors.
Mm.
Like a lot of these kids that are from divorced families, the fathers, and I love doing that with these kids because I turn like not a dad, but a mentor, and
You
they
have like something to aim at.
and they come to me with like, hey, and I go, hey, you got to do your schoolwork, and I'm like, I always tell the younger trainers, I can't be their friend.
Yeah.
Like if I can't look at YouTube with them and I can't
Yeah.
look at their Instagrams, I'm like, they have to see me as kind of an authority figure and they'll respect me. And then, and now I have kids of kids.
Yeah.
I'm having kids now come that were kids that I had when I first started. So it's just that's what I'm saying, that the mentorship is so great to for these high school kids, but I want to teach them that if you work hard, you can pretty much get whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like you said, like you can take the world by the balls if you want to.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
Yeah, and I think like the people that it's like the people that make it look hard are the people that are like winning the game essentially.
Yeah.
But it's almost like people need to know that, because this was like when I was a kid, I would look at someone and go like, oh, he's just so much more talented than me.
Right.
And he's so much more this than me, and he's so much more that than me. But it's like in reality, I just never done the work.
Right.
And it
Yeah.
wasn't like, it's funny. I'd say like jiu-jitsu was the thing that I did where like I fully did the work.
Yeah.
And it was the first time in my life where someone would come back and be like, man, you're so talented at this.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Wow.
motherfucker.
Really?
I'm not talented. Like,
Yeah.
And there probably is an element of
Oh,
natural
for
ability,
sure.
but then it's like, if it was just talent and I just went to the gym and I didn't research and I didn't do outside classes and I didn't hit up people to train every day, and if I didn't pick the hardest people in the gym, if I didn't like all the things that I could tell you I did,
Yeah.
that was outside of that talent base. So it's like, it was the first time where I was able to apply
Yeah.
or see the correlation. And then I just applied that literally to the podcast.
Yeah.
And then I looked at all of my business failures and all of the other things that I'd failed at in my life, because everything was a failure.
Yeah.
Like to a point, like
Right.
I wasn't successful at
Yeah.
any of the things that I wanted to do. Maybe did I get 30%? Did I get 40%? That probably looked like success on the outside to
Yeah.
some people, but I never went 100%.
No.
I was never successful.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a very clear picture with even the most successful people, or the people that are winning at life, quote unquote. It's fucking easy.
It is.
It's simple things that they're doing over and over and over.
The same thing with school. Like when I was in high school, all I cared about was ball. I was shitty. I just never put any effort into it at all. Zero. And I got a scholarship. I played at University of Hawaii, and but then as soon as I figured out what I wanted to do, like I wanted to be a, kinesiology, straight A's. Because I put in the work.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, people were like, oh, you're just not smart. I just didn't. As soon as I put in the effort, boom, straight. I never got a B.
Yep.
In college. And it just showed. It's just because I was passionate about it and I put in the work.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to teach my kids. Like all it is find your passion and fucking work hard, and you will be successful.
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, mate, I've enjoyed this. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Okay.
I've already run over.
Okay.
I didn't know how much time.
I'm fine. I'm okay.
But man,
it was great.
Really, really appreciate it. And
it was fun.
Knowing how busy you are, and there's probably so much stuff we could have got into. But
maybe when Levi and Tom win both championships.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, dude, that actually is crazy. You have both.
You
don't have the red plate at the moment with Levi, but you had both of the red plates. A trainer, very few people have heard
Levi
of.
will get it back this week.
I think he's in for a good one.
Yeah, we'll see.
You can fully see.
You never know. I mean, he's, it's just, with motocross, you can, who knows what can happen. But, but mentally, he's in a great good state.
Yeah. No, I'm excited for the future with him too.
Yeah, I am too. He's a great kid.
Yeah.
Like I love him because we can talk about Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and Pearl Jam.
Yeah, not just.
No, and Chase will go, "Who's that?"
Yeah.
Where Levi, he grew up in Seattle. Like, he knows all those bands, and it's like, yes, finally someone I can talk to.
That's so.
And he actually knew who Surge was.
No shit.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I mean, fuck, he's just one of the greats.
Yeah.
Just hearing him do like that.
Dude, I'm not telling you. I'll ask him about this podcast. He might do it.
Dude, what's his book about?
His autobiography.
Oh, dude, I'll love to read
Yeah,
it.
it comes out the 14th of this month.
Okay.
Of May.
I wonder if we could just.
He's doing a book tour, and he lives right near here.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll read his book and I can do the podcast.
Seriously,
There'd be
he would.
a lot of people that would.
Oh yeah, because in the moto world, he probably.
Bro, System of a Fucking Down.
Yeah.
That's what like moto shaped. So like, if you were a kid that grew up in moto,
yeah,
everything was taken care of.
Yeah.
The clothes you like,
I know.
the music you listen to,
exactly.
the fucking girls you like, who you looked up to. Like that when you are a kid that grows up in moto, there's just a culture there. It's kind of like surfing.
Just discovered it.
And System of a Down, fully a part of that culture.
Okay, good.
So, but I appreciate it.
All right.
I know how busy you are, and the fact that you came and did this.
It was fun.
It was awesome.
It was fun. Yeah. Thanks.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.